I'm really looking forward to working with you. It's been so
I
exciting
think
last year.
I think you can contribute a lot. So I'm really looking for your help, your support in taking this forward with your, you know so much.
I would love to. It's just that I'll keep on sharing a little bit of my personal experiences, and then we can see how we can kind of use it for the
Yeah,
benefit of everybody.
yeah, we're talking about two separate things. Yeah, this isn't today's call, but as the co-chair of this for the coming year,
Yeah.
it's another story, right? There you have to
Yeah.
take leadership.
Yes.
Hello, Chandan.
Good afternoon, Vikramji. Ashok Sehgal here.
Good
Met
afternoon,
in
Ashok
the
ji.
CII MSME earlier. You were co-chair a couple of years ago with us also. A good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you?
Wonderful.
All good?
Wonderful to meet you again today.
Yeah, wonderful. Same here. Yeah, good.
So we'll add that very explicitly. I kind of worded around it because we're dependent on this thing, but we made it very clear that as we move to the next phase, we will, dedicate this thing to bringing in a full-time team that's ring-fenced for the delivery of this. Yeah. Yeah, so basically they can then help as we reach out, etc. to that to accelerate the process. We sort of also next week have a conversation just to understand how they have geared up and their priorities and their states and what issues they see, etc.
I will be speaking all the time. I will be speaking all the time from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock.
They're already thinking of the next week, but we are going to done this week. Yeah. Right. And I'm looking it up for a lot of other things. That's good. You send me, or you can send us comments. I'll start this conversation. Yeah,
Good afternoon, Mr. Segal, Chandan, Dr. Stolte, Mr. Sasaki, and Vikram. We're still waiting. It's just shortly after 3 o'clock. Uh, just wait another few minutes. We still have some of the panelists to join in. And of course, we are waiting for the attendees because for them, this has only opened at 3 o'clock. So we'll wait another 5 minutes before we start. Is that okay?
Sure, sounds good. We need the audience to really make it work. Good, thank you.
In case, if anybody wants to test out their speaker, their voice, they can do that now before we open it up to the audience. Another 5 minutes, please, and then we will start. Aditya, can we start?
Yes, please, Dr. Kapoor, we can start. I think it's already J15.
Yeah, okay, one moment. So good afternoon and a very warm welcome to our esteemed panelists, Ashok Sehgal, Dr. Harry Stolte, Mr. Satoshi Sasaki, Mr. Mitra, Dr. Raj Nehru. Esteemed panelists, delegates, the COVID pandemic and the subsequent lockdown brought life to a standstill. As the lockdown eased and demand started to return, it became clear that something had changed at a fundamental level. The economy and transactions became increasingly digital. Our focus today is on manufacturing and healthcare, where the adoption of digital technology is radically changing how goods are manufactured and healthcare services are delivered, creating a major shift in the skill sets required going forward. The opportunities and challenges this poses and the way forward to build these skills is our focus today. The first part of our today's conference will be on manufacturing. In manufacturing, the pandemic is fast forwarding digital transformation of companies in manufacturing. Large corporates are actively adopting digitally enabled product innovations as well as Industry 4.0 in their operations. Two competitions recently conducted by the CII Center of Competitiveness of SMEs on automation and excellence in maintenance over the last few weeks have brought out that while large companies are rapidly adopting IoT and digitization and increasing their competitiveness, MSMEs have yet to start. It is abundantly clear that MSMEs will need to move fast forward their transformation in terms of assessing the relevance of their product portfolio and moving in tandem with their customers. This will mean that they would have to look at their product profile, how it is morphing over the next few years, as well as how their operations will need to change as they move to adopting digitalization and Industry 4.0, planning their future operations and process flows with significantly fewer staff and workmen. More important, they would need to reskill their workforce with a new set of skills as they make this transition. The transition is time sensitive, and companies would need to bring this about in a defined period of time. Liquidity constraints, particularly among small and medium companies, will require companies to phase implementation and implement technologies which bring low-hanging fruit. Conference will showcase how CII centers of excellence for digital transformation and competitiveness of MSMEs can help to fast-track the transition in SMEs. The conference will also discuss the way ahead, including how the current ITIs can rapidly create skilling programs to address this gap. I would now like to request Mr. Ashok Sehgal, Managing Director of Frontier Technologies Private Limited. Ashok is also the co-chair of CII's MSME Council and has been very actively involved both on the financial side, helping companies as they face liquidity constraints, as also in his own company, which I hope he'll talk about in this transition. Ashok.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kapoor. Thank you very much. I think this event you're holding is very timely. And as you said, I think the key message we all have from the lockdown and the pandemic we have faced is that the good old ways of doing things, especially the way we have been doing it in India in a very relaxed and informal manner, is no longer the way we should continue to work. And while this is a challenge, it is also an opportunity which I think all of us in India are taking up, and those who take full advantage of it and take benefit of it will see the rewards, as you said, going forward of both the low-hanging fruits and the slightly harder to fight fruits, which may take a little longer, but we have to proceed forward. As you mentioned, one of the key problems faced with industry has been in the MSME sector because of the vulnerability. In the very large companies, it was relatively easy to have resources of experts in various areas to help to help cope with the changed circumstances. Now, in MSMEs, there is limited number of top management talent available. especially in the smaller of the medium units. However, these are the units who have an awareness of what can be done, what needs to be done, only we did not have the time for doing it. I would like, before I go further, let me just quickly recap what happened when the lockdown started. It happened in the middle of March, which is a terrible time for it to happen because it is the end of the financial year. For companies like us, and I'm sure a lot of MSMEs, the last month of the financial year is a time when all the customers suddenly want deliveries of all the orders they've placed. So it puts a lot of stress on getting stuff out of the door, which after the lockdown on 16th of March 2020 meant that the last 2 week shipments were held up and could not really be shipped out. The other part is the flip side, where a lot of the receivables of the smaller of the MSMEs, which are held up with larger companies, they make it a point to clear the balance sheet and pay those payments before the end of the financial year. Those payments did not come in. So these two were very, very significant factors as far as MSMEs are concerned. Since you wanted me to mention some of our own experience, we had on for the Monday, 17th of March, a full container of 40 feet ready to sail to Europe, which could not sail for almost 2 months. The problem at our end, problem at our customer end. Fortunately, both got overcome, but that was the kind of constraint and hit that suddenly happened. Now, the thing is that during the lockdown period, and particularly, let me say, for MSMEs, I don't know what happened to the larger units, there's a government directive to continue to pay salaries. I know for all of April, most of the MSMEs or most industry did pay its workers, continue to pay them the wages whether they worked or not. This continued for a large part of May until people threw up their hands and said, we don't have liquidity, what do we do? Full marks to the government for coming out very quickly for schemes for the MSMEs in particular, like the emergency credit line guarantee, where for those who are not MSMEs and may not be aware, the default option given to the banks was to give 20% additional working capital to the MSME unit unless it opted out. I think this is a very proactive move by the government, and the government has been extremely supportive in this and other measures which they have taken. But the thing is that when there is a downturn, very paradoxically, that is the time when cash flows actually ease because a lot of your expenses come down. Also, at the same time, the purchase of raw materials and incurring new liabilities also reduces. And when the downturn ends and you begin to scale up again, and a lot of startups will 100% be aware of this and sympathize with me when I say this, is that is the time when cash flows start becoming most difficult. Now, what happened at that time is that a lot of the larger companies in particular had extensive systems which required that before any payments could be released to MSMEs, there must be somebody from the stores who will confirm having received the material. He will send it to accounts, who will compare it to the purchase orders. It will go to finance, who will see do they have the funds to make that payment, and then somebody who's got to sign the check to release the payment or sign off online. Now, I think this entire process is something which has really hurt MSMEs, and it needs to be addressed as an opportunity when all these things must happen with all these 5 people sitting at remote locations. In smaller companies or smaller organizations had to make payment to MSMEs, it was relatively easier to call up the managing director or the proprietor or the owner and say, hey, you owe me this money. Can you please expedite it? I need it. Whereas the large company said, we know we owe you this money, but I'm sorry, until my stores man comes back from the village he has gone back to, I cannot help you. So these are issues which we have to resolve, and we have to see them as challenges. And all of these require a lot of skilling, not only of the operating units, but all the adjunct enterprise with whom they deal. On the other hand, for the companies themselves, there is a different set of constraints, which is that once you start trying to do this, do your workers have the skill levels to operate computers, to enter the data online instead of entering in registers, to analyze the data and use that to take operational decisions? In our case, we had been slowly moving along on implementing an ERP system. This gave us an impetus to do so faster. we had been slowly looking at more automation because once the restart happened, we had orders which were backlogged. Customers wanted them. We needed more production. We started running a second shift. We didn't have adequate supervision. So the question of automation, both in operation as well as automation in data collection and data analysis, is something which we have begun to move ahead on. And I would recommend both of these steps to every MSME to look at it seriously and take advantage of this, because this is the way going forward. Another related problem was the shortage of workers. Interestingly, in the end of May or beginning of June, for an industry conference we were having with our members from East India, they were asked what was the biggest problem they had. And the biggest problem was workers. After a while, the chairperson moderating the meeting asked, what about the problem of finance? And they said, yeah, that's a problem. What other problems? Freight, transport, that is a problem. So overall, I think what it says is that, yes, finance was a problem which the government had addressed, but problems of transport, problems of workers have underlined the need to streamline these two things. Inventories became smaller, and it showed that we could manage with lesser inventory. We are today managing with about 20 to 25% lesser inventory than we were normally running. Similarly, we are trying to optimize transport, both of materials coming in and going out, both in terms of quantity as well as the timing of that. So there is now a need to have committed timings on both the delivery dates which you promise and on the payments which you have promised. So I think these are the kind of rethinking and reskilling which is required. By and large, the worst of the pandemic seems to be over for industry, for the MSMEs. What remains is the lag between the shipments going out and the money coming back in. And there is a request pending from MSMEs to the government. I don't know what they will decide, is that the moratoriums on the extra credit they have given expires on 31st March. And there's a request that, recognizing the lag between the pickup of business and the coming in of the funds, please extend this further. So there is a liquidity problem. It has been addressed through mechanisms, I said, of the emergency credit line, more adoption of things, payment platforms like Treads and GEMS. And I hope that all this will lead to an easing off. But that is a pain point. I'm very happy that Dr. Sudhir Kapoor has given me this opportunity to talk about this. And with that, I'd like to end this and assure you that the MSMEs are working hard. I think we're near the end of the hump, and we will be over it fairly soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashok, for sharing your own experience. I know you've been doing some stellar work as far as the MSME is concerned. But now we are fortunate to have with us Dr. Harry Stolte from the Academy of International Cooperation, Competence Development for TVET from Magdeburg, Deutschland. And he's going to talk to us on the consequences on skill development of digitalization and Industry 4.0. Before you start, Dr. Stolte, you know, I've been working for German companies for the last 30 years, large ones at that. And from what I know of Germany, there are, for the MSMEs, a large number of centers, 26 centers, if I'm not wrong, to help MSMEs move towards Industry 4.0 and automation. And there's several demonstration centers. Unfortunately, that's missing in this country. So what is your advice? How can this country move forward in trying to, particularly for these small and medium companies? The big guys will solve their problem. How can they move forward and move towards the process of automation in industry and Industry 4.0? Over to you, Dr. Stolte. Dr. Stolte?
Dr. Stolte, I think you need to unmute yourself, sir.
We can't hear you. Actually, we see a black screen, Dr. Stolte. I think something is, you need to check out what's happening.
Dr. Kapoor, we'll just need 2-3 seconds. It will start.
Okay, all right.
Can you
Okay,
hear?
I'll try to upload. I'll try to upload the application. I think.
Can you hear me now?
we can hear you. We can't see any. We can
Okay.
see the-
Okay. Now, sorry for the trouble. It's a pleasure for me to be on board today, and I'd like to share some ideas for the issue on skills development from the perspective of the GIZ TVET Academy. That is an unit in the German Association for International Cooperation, and we are specialized for skills development. And so far, we are working on behalf of German government on the one side, and we have also the service area to realize contracts from third parties, from international clients, and we have a so-called training catalog where we offer related to some thematic priorities, different training programs for our international clients. One of the thematic areas is related to skills development, digitalization, and industry 4.0. And I don't know, I cannot share my screen in the moment. Eventually, Aditya can take over the PowerPoint I forwarded in advance. Otherwise, I try to explain a little bit our approach regarding skills development and Industry 4.0. On the one hand, we have focus on the worldwide trends of digitalization and what is the impact on the changes in production processes, in business processes, and in work processes. And that definitely, we are now on slide number 3, Aditya, that has an impact on labor market as well as on education and training market. And in the international perspective on investigations, there are five priority technologies which are driving the digital transformation in the skill systems.
Aditya, you're still on the first slide. We are already on the third one. Can you advance the slide, please? Aditya, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear. We have to switch now to slide number 4.
Aditya, slide number 4.
Okay. Here it's a short overview about the priority technologies which are driving digital transformation and related changes in the skill system. That is after an investigation of ILO and UNESCO. And one that is clear, it's the access to computing power and anytime and anywhere. We have within the Industry 4.0 developments collaboration technologies where the technologies itself can collaborate with anyone in real time. We have the development of extended reality. We see an upcoming development of artificial intelligence. That is the ability for machines to learn on their own and to interact in a human-like manner. And also another upcoming technology is blockchain. and this all is in parallel in different intensity upcoming in terms of technology. Next slide, please. No, other direction, please.
Keep going. Keep on there. Forward.
So in the same time, there was investigated, and I think it was already mentioned before, that there is a change in demand of the type of qualifications and skills. And we see there is an upcoming demand of complex skills. There is a big gap in the supply on the labor market for these needed complex skills. And in parallel, in the same time, the demand in lower skills or unskilled workers is declining, and that needs for the skills development systems to push skills development regarding complexer skills. The next slide, please.
Aditya, next slide.
Next, yeah. And that is also mentioned before. Next one, please.
Next one.
A big problem for the companies in general is a skills shortage and inability to attract the needed specialized talent. Of course, there are also other problems and gaps, for example, regarding leadership, finance, etc. But as investigated by the World Economic Forum, with view on the future of jobs worldwide, the biggest problem to implement the Industry 4.0 developments, this is skills shortage and to find the workers which have the needed qualification and skills. That is the greatest barrier for companies to harness the growth potential of new technologies adoption. The next one, please. Next slide. So, and from that perspective, what are the requirements to modernize and to adapt the skills to make the companies competent or able for Industry 4.0? On the one hand, there have to be modernize the structures of occupations in terms of training and learning. That there is a need to modernize the training contents as well as the concepts for the training in terms of didactics and training methodology. There is a need to develop and make available digital resources, tools, platforms, etc. for the training and learning processes. And more and more, there is a pressure to set up a new or adapted cooperation mechanism for combining the learning venues in companies combined with colleges or training centers. And so far, all that has to be combined with focus on a holistic addressing of the development of new competences requirements. These are in the same time so-called digital competences, the knowledge and skills to adapt digital technologies, beside also the sectoral competences, it's a difference if you are in the manufacturing sector or in textile, and so far there is a need to focus and combine digital competences with the sector-specific competences and what is called transversal competences, as communication skills, new types of cooperation, creativity, critical thinking, etc. So next slide, please. To summarize all these, sometimes there is the idea to invest just in technology or in digital instruments, tools, etc. As observed and analyzed by OECD and Tucker, that is a representative of the US education sector, they found out that there will be no payoff from technology unless there are investments in quality of teachers and trainers in companies and in colleges or in training centers. That is mainly forgotten in all the strategies, blueprints about adaptation and modernization of skills development. I think we can go to the next slide, just a short overview because I'm running out of time. Here some ideas or thoughts. What is the demand to professionalize teachers and trainers in terms of digital competences, in subject-specific competences, and in terms of pedagogic competences, combined with some guiding questions to find out and to address the priority elements of the competence areas, and how to set up a holistic approach towards competence development for teachers and trainers. Next one, please. Next slide. Yeah, and all these must be done or shall be done with a focus on an environment where the trainers and teachers act on the one hand in their educational institutions, but interlinked with companies and the business sector. The next slide.
Aditya.
If you want to see more about our training programs, you can investigate or search in the internet. And the next slide, please. And I collected in the next one some elements from our portfolio which are related to skills development in line with digitalization. There are basic courses, there are courses for management and leadership of the different training institutions, and the courses can be delivered in a single way or can be offered also combined in an customized approach. So far, a short view from GIZ Tibet Academy, and I'm looking forward if we could eventually set up some cooperation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Stolte. I think for all of us, this is a wake-up call. It's clear that unless we get our act together, we're not going to get where we want to. We will certainly catch up with you, especially our two centers of excellence, both for digital as well as for competitiveness, to see how we can benefit and work together to be able to bring some of these uh, opportunities to or training programs, because I think as everybody is beginning to understand, this is the need of the day and it's required for survival. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciate your taking the time, and thank you for a great presentation. We will connect with you. We need your help. Thank you so much. With these words, now I'd like to invite Mr. Jagdish Mitra, Chief Strategy Officer and Head of Growth, Tech Mahindra. And Jagdish will talk on how IT industry is gearing up for the next leap towards realizing Industry 4.0. Mr. Mitra, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Kapoor. Thank you for the opportunity to talk. It's an absolutely important topic, even more so after what you described as the environment in the post-COVID world. And what does it mean for us to be ready to be able to deliver? And Dr. Ashwini Saigal, Mr. Harry Stolteb, all of them reaffirmed the need for us to be able to look at completely Industry 4.0 and the need for manufacturing to scale up. I would just request the administrative team to allow me the share option so I can share the content.
Sure, kindly hold on for a couple of seconds. We're doing it.
Okay. So as the share option comes up, I thought I'll just give you a little bit of a background of what the discussion has been going on. If you see some of the work that's going on in the IT world in terms of the need, it's really about skilling and the capability required for the skill to be ready. So, World Economic Forum, for example, did a survey, and in the OECD reported a mismatch between their current skills and the qualifications required for their jobs. Approximately about 30 to 40% of the skills demanded for jobs across industries were expected to change beyond 2020. And now the speed of change will even be faster. So let me just put up the PowerPoint. Is it visible?
Yes.
I hope the presentation
Yes.
Okay. So what I wanted to first of all talk about is really the evolution of the industry, how it went from Industry 1.0 to now what we are calling as 4.0, and what really was the focus behind this area of work that we are really looking at. So what has really characterized this change in the era is really the ability for us to move from almost a steam-based era to atomic to digital to now, even what people are talking about is the post-digital era. It's ultimately about productivity. It's ultimately about efficiency. And those are what the evolution of the industry is about and how the industry has leveraged technology from time to time to be able to deliver that revolution. If you look at it on the right-hand side, therefore, are all the technology areas that the technology industry and the manufacturing industry or the IT industry and the manufacturing industry are collaborating to be able to develop those skills, be it big data or be it robotics or cyber security, or even what we think is the most exciting phase and which will get, personally from Tech Mahindra, we are extremely focused on is what can 5G mean to the business of the evolution of the Industry 4.0. So not only from the aspect of, the gamut of solutions that we are developing and we are working on, is not only from the basis of all future skilling activities, but also to look at the providing the skills that are required. For example, AR. For example, you use terminologies like digital twins. Especially in the COVID world, we heard examples of how factories in that example that was talked about where they're meeting with the representatives from eastern part of India, and they slowly started coming out across problems in supply chain, problems in manufacturing, problems in finance, and problems in cash flow, and so on and so forth. One of the big things I think the COVID world has taught us that to make sure as many of these can be enabled through digital. So increasingly factories are adopting things like digital twins, things like 5G to make sure they are a much smarter IT/OT information technology and operations technology integration, usage of big data analytics coupled with cybersecurity. So the information that is getting generated from machines, terabytes and terabytes of data, how do you make sure that your systems and applications are actually making sure that they're reading insight and taking a decision on it? So the whole factory of the future, the industry 4.0, is built around the fact that it can actually replicate that environment completely around what can be delivered. If you look at then the whole capability of what the forum that I talked about is doing is realizing that there are a huge amount of skills that are now changing. For example, creativity will become one of the most important skill as we start to move into the next generation of skills that are required. It will become the top 3 skills. In 2015, the top 3 skills that we were looking for in as workers was primarily about complex problem solving, coordinating with others, and people management. This has changed. Complex problem solving still remains as #1 skill requirement, but as we get into the future, it's critical thinking and creativity, which basically means all the stuff that we were expecting people to do are all getting delivered now very much by machine. So there is a large requirement for capabilities that are beyond the machine, which is basically opportunities and solutions that are getting delivered through analytics. In that world, we thought that it will be important for us to look at a couple of things as to what we could do in terms of skills. There are numerous case studies that we in Tech Mahindra talked about, and there is a lot of challenges that people talked about in terms of how to leverage the industry 4.0 to solve both internal and external business problems. I therefore thought we'll take one case study. And this case study is really about addressing one of the biggest fears that we have in Industry 4.0, that it will bring mass scale unemployment and eliminate critical jobs from the system. None of that is happening. For example, in Tech Mahindra, we deeply invested in skilling as a process and as an empowerment tool. And what we've done, therefore, we've associated with CII's Samarth Udyog and NASSCOM's Future Skill to constantly communicate, take workshops and train for this segment. We also use our Mahindra Group plants. Thankfully, we have that advantage with a factory setup, with an automotive setup, with a huge manufacturing setup that the Mahindra Group has, for us to be able to test some of these new age factory of the future solutions and the skills. So from the case study, a classic example of how an underskilled or less skilled worker resource, such as a plant worker, can actually upskill himself through the breakthrough in technology is where IT and manufacturing technology worked very closely. So we said remote working or monitoring means that with 4G or 5G in play and travel costs go down, people can learn from the comfort of a tier 2 or tier 3 city. This pandemic, out of our 125,000 employees, 95% of them worked completely remote for almost 8 to 9 months. Now at least somehow coming back to work, but that's also still then 10 to 15%. So we could leverage the remote working and monitoring, which is applicable to both the factory of the future and our operational solutions that the world is looking for. Then learning by doing. So you have a huge amount of work that you can do today by AR, VR being used as a training tool and 3D being used as a training tool for us to be able to deliver that. And finally, virtual assistants. I think learning anytime, so you have it learning on the go, you have it on your device, you have it on your computer, or you have voice activated solutions and training guides available 24/7 with video technology always evolving on a contextual basis. So I think skilling and industry 4.0 is the biggest opportunity and the biggest lever for us to be able to be successful as we get into factory 4.0. This actually is an example of a semicon manufacturer, but the same can be actually delivered through many solutions as we go forward. And that I think is the biggest opportunity that we have as we start to look at factory of the future and industry 4.0. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kapoor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mitra. I think that was illuminating. I think you're bringing back everybody to realize that the old world is disappearing and the new one is here, and we better wake up. If we don't, we will be sleeping. Thank you so much. I'm sure that, post this discussion, we would try and get together a group, including yourselves and Dr. Stolte and others, to be able to try and take this forward, because we don't want this just to be a discussion. We want to be able to create an opportunity, particularly for our MSMEs who really need this to be able to go forward. May I now
You are
request?
100% right, Mr. Kapoor, that the biggest opportunity lies for us. Take advantage of what I call as speed, scale, and scope of digital, especially as the COVID world has taught us. And as you rightly mentioned, the MSME industry. If we can make them technology enabled, then that's where we will create globally competitive products.
Thank you so much. We are both on the same page. Together, we have to try and make this happen. And we will also look, of course, to your help, Dr. Harry Stolte, in trying to take this forward. May I now request Mr. Satoshi Sasaki, Deputy Director at ILO India, for his presentation on skilling is the answer to the challenges of the future.
Yeah, thank you very much. Distinguished members of the virtual dais, members of CII, esteemed participants, ladies and gentlemen, namaskar and good afternoon. It is a great pleasure for me to speak at this CII event on a topic that is most pertinent in the current times. Let me first salute the effort made by the industries and private sector employers to stand up and tackle the COVID-19 challenges posed to the world. The International Labour Organization was among the first to identify that COVID-19 pandemic is not just a health crisis, but as a social and economic crisis as well. The ILO was quick to respond to the fallout caused by the pandemic, largely capitalized on its experiences tackling previous emergencies and economic world depressions. The ILO monitors on COVID-19 and World of Work, the magazine, periodically estimate the impact on income and employment. Besides, it also provides policy recommendations to deal with the situation under 4 pillars, including first, protect workers at the workplace, and second, stimulate economic and the labor demand, and third, support employment and incomes, and lastly, the use social dialogue between government, workers, and employers to find solutions. The skills development has a crucial role to play in the immediate effort to reduce the impact of COVID-19 in building the resilience of workers and firms and in preparing for recovery. The timely analysis of shift in skills demands fed into the training and education system will allow us to effectively respond to widening skills mismatch demand. It calls for rapid assessment of needs for skilling, reskilling, and upskilling for timely and practical actions. In this regard, the skill anticipation exercise has been already underway by the Minister of Skills, focusing on the manufacturing sector with the intent to feed into Atmanirbhar initiative is an important step. I also the privilege to be associated with the ministry in this regard. India needs new skills and lifelong learning ecosystems that support implementation of international labor standards, in particular the Human Resource Development Convention and Human Resource Development recommendations. Such an ecosystem recognizes that education, training, and lifelong learning are the fundamental and should form an integral part of the economic, fiscal, social, and labor market policies. Lifelong learning policies would entail development of foundational skills, including learning to learn, adaptability, teamwork, innovation, critical thinking through early childhood and basic education. Using technology to promote flexible learning options is another important element of lifelong learning, alongside equipping youth and workers with digital skills. A modular-based management training program is a good example of facilitating reskilling and upskilling of employees through the use of audio-visual and interactive learning modality. This effort needs to be complemented by active labor market policies like career guidance, counseling, and support services that play an important role in facilitating people's transitions. Besides improving the supply side, it is equally important for India to make skilling ecosystem demand-driven. This necessitates expanding recognition and validation of skills and competencies. ILO's the current for the NSQF, National Skills Qualification Framework, must address broader and flexible pathways for qualifications. The ILO is working closely with the Labor Ministry of Skills on developing the robust NSQF and the monitoring framework. Considering the scale of informal economy in the country, recognition for prior learning mechanism will have to be expanded to formalize skills and competencies gained informally. Credit transfer mechanism must be implemented to create a seamless movement from TVET to formal education system. Implementation of the sectoral approach to skills development with emphasis on emerging sectors such as the green economy and also care sectors will be important alongside strengthening the linkages between the institutes and enterprises and develop more flexible learning delivery system. It will also be essential to expand the national apprenticeship program to include the micro enterprises which dominate the Indian economy. Eventually, the skilling ecosystem needs to adopt new normal by strengthening the resilience and the responsiveness of TBET systems to ensure service delivery leaves no one behind, as enshrined in the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. In these endeavors, it is critical to ensure easy access and affordability of skilling packages. Equally, it is important to understand the needs for the skilling packages presented in a comprehensive format and available in e-platforms. These skilling packages should be based on occupations or trades, which are not too far away from the knowledge or comparative advantage of the local community. Introducing a skill set which is completely alien to the local context, just intending to accelerate growth and modernization, is not suitable due to the risks of wide gaps in learning curve. I also would like to emphasize here that the availability of quality career guidance services has become necessary. Market for the disruptions triggered by the COVID-19 has resulted in collapse and the emergence of the industry sectors, necessitating informed counseling of youth to choose right vocation. We are all aware that the skilled employees are the core of the competitive economies. It infuses the agility and the resilience into the enterprises and enable them to effectively respond to market changes. COVID-19 has amplified the needs to invest in skilling, necessitating technology-based service models, especially to reach out informal workers and those at risk of entering to informal economy. Ladies and gentlemen, our new normal should be with a human face. ILO stands ready to propel the ongoing efforts by its constituents in India in this direction. In conclusion, while the pandemic has prompted us to revisit the skilling needs in the economy, it is important to realize for the optimal result. The human software needs to be matched with the investment in working condition and making skilling ecosystem gender mainstreamed in an economy which has among the lowest female labor force participation rate. I wish you a very fruitful deliberation in this event. So thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sasaki, for your words. I think very valuable. I think more and more it's becoming very clear that there is a big change happening, and the pandemic has accelerated it. It's a wake-up call for us. It's no longer business as usual. There is a new normal, and in that new normal, it's not only your desire to move forward technologically. If you are not able to create the people with the skills to do it, then you will not succeed the way you wish to do that. So I think it's really something which we all seem to need to work at, and we've got some brilliant ideas. And I'm sure this is only the beginning of our discussions when we will engage with Mr. Stolte, with Mr. Jairaj, with all of you to be able to take this forward. May I now request Dr. Raj Nehru. Dr. Raj Nehru is our chief guest today. He's the Mission Director, Haryana State Skill Development Mission, and Vice Chancellor of Sri Vishwakarma Skill University, Government of Haryana. As somebody who's always been there to support us and very passionate in bringing about, the kind of and dynamic person in bringing about change, which is so important in this sector. Dr. Nehru, over to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you CII for inviting me to this event. This is really wonderful that you are setting tone most of the times, which are very relevant topics. And today you have brought a discussion on the industry and the job growth, especially through best skilling and reskilling practices. Before I start, I would like to just make a small correction. I am not now the mission director. So just a couple of days back, I have moved out of the mission director role. My focus is 100% on the skill university. With that, I was listening to my previous speaker as well. I got the chance to hear that. And there were a couple of things which he actually brought them out, and they're very relevant. I would like to put up some of my thoughts as far as skilling and reskilling is concerned that can fuel growth. See, one of the important challenges through some of the research that we have done in very recent past is, if you look at the general enrollment ratio in higher education in the country, it's reported to be somewhere around 27%, which means around 73% of the eligible youths in the age group of 18 to 23 are not enrolled in higher education. And when we see it by numbers today, in the age group of 18 to 23, we have somewhere around 140 million youths in this category, which means only 37 million youths are enrolled in higher education. That means leaving a large population, almost 103 million youths, out of higher education. Now, when you also do the analysis of this 103 million, you'll find that there are almost 45, 46 million youths who are eligible, means they are 12th pass, and they are eligible to be in higher education, but they are not in higher education, whereas the rest of them would be 10th or 11th in that age group. So net, we have more than 100 million youths who are not in higher education, and a huge population, almost 50-60% of them, are actually in the labor market, which means they are in the labor market with no formal skill qualifications, no formal higher education qualification. Now, today the job market, the industry, the corporates are actually leveraging their services and utilizing them in their day-to-day operations, which means the level of skill, level of knowledge, level of learning, level of education that they bring in with them would also become a stumbling block for them to contribute even more meaningfully for a higher level productivity that is required in the industry. So my first point to bring here is that if we really want to transform and take a big leap, like our Honorable Prime Minister also talks about the 5 pillars of Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliant India, in which he says that one is we have to take quantum leaps and we have to leverage the demography. I think there's a time that has come that this 103 million population, this we need to tap, and we need to re-engage them, reskill them, or upskill them for what they are doing today in more, better, and different ways. And for that, we need to bring them back into the fold of skilling in through education. So recognition of prior learning in higher education is one thing that I propose, and our university has actually prepared a research paper on this and submitted it to the government as a policy. We recommend that recognition of prior learning should be made mandatory for higher education, which means the existing youths in the labor market be assessed for their existing skills vis-a-vis higher level skills which can fetch them a higher qualification, and the gaps where they have today, those should be filled through providing them additional skills, additional knowledge, additional learning. And with that, it can fuel growth as well, because you will have more qualified, more thoughtful, more skillful, more ideative youngsters who already have experience with them at the workplace. And this can fuel ideation at workplace. This can fuel productivity at workplace. This can fuel technological movement at the workplace. So that's the first thing that I would like to talk from this platform. And I think CII can actually take it across all the industries. And we have started a pilot with JBM, where we are focusing right now on a couple of job roles like tool and die engineering and mechanical manufacturing, where the youngsters who have been working for many years in these job roles but are not qualified. So how this university through RPL can help them to move up. This is number one. Number two is, if you look at this RPL in higher education, it will also act as a social inclusion tool. Those youngsters who could not get the opportunity of pursuing education for a more sustainable livelihood, this methodology can help us to make an inclusive intervention and help these youngsters become more sustainable for the, bring sustainability in their livelihood. Couple of suggestions that I would like to talk about is, I think the time has come when the academic institutions need to shun their conventional method of working, and they need to have a more proactive and prospective and more outcome-based dialogue with industries. Today, educator, educatee, and the employer, they are operating in 3 different silos. They are operating in 3 different worlds. And unless these three stakeholders come together and work in tandem and synergy, I don't see any prospective change going to happen in coming days. We may keep on talking, but we may not be able to achieve the desired result. So the dialogue that has to happen between industry, educator, and the employer, this dialogue needs to be more constructive and more purposeful and more outcome based. So today, for example, in our university, all the programs that we run today, we run it with industry sponsorship, we run it with industry mentorship, and industry requirements are baked into the curriculum and syllabus, and the programs are designed with keeping into mind the job roles, the vocations at each level, and thereby making the qualifications more flexible entry exit, with mapped to some job roles that the industry has defined and decided. Now, this kind of mechanism, this kind of work between industry and the education institution is very transformative, because it will help to enhance the qualification value of the qualifications that institutions are issuing, and it will also help industry to get the job ready resources. Rather, we have resources leaving the institutions, and then the organizations spending another 1 year on and investing on their reskilling or skilling, which is another money that the industry has to spend. So why not that get shifted back to the institution, educational institution, which is their fundamental duty. So I think this is the second area. And for this, I think industry needs to also support the NAPS program. Today, we are not seeing a very high penetration for NAPS. And this National Apprenticeship Promotion Scheme is one important driver of change. And remember, if industry comes forward and supports and facilitates NAPS in a more meaningful manner, it is actually going to come back in more rewarding ways to the same industry for growth and development. I think what is lacking today when I go and see around is the quality on account of the training institutions infrastructure. And the infrastructure that we have today is not good enough to meet the changing demands of the industry requirement. So I think this is where some cluster-based approach needs to be taken, because every training institution or every institution of skill cannot invest into same amount or same type of infrastructure. So if a cluster approach is adopted, and in different clusters, different type of your specialized infrastructure are created, it will save on the money. We will have a more productive infrastructure, and that way we will be able to support the industry. The infrastructure has to be developed keeping into mind the hours of practice a student requires today for hands-on work before he or she hits the floor of the industry. So before a student is made productive for industry, the number of hours for practice in the infrastructure that has to be created needs to be increased, so that the student becomes ready to perform when he or she is going to the industry. I think what required here is the quality of trainers. We today do not see a great quality of trainers. The pedagogical intervention that is required for an outcome-based teaching and outcome-based learning requires a more application-oriented approach. So applied learning is something that the trainers need to be trained for, and somewhere we are today lacking in developing the right skill sets for a skill trainer or a vocational trainer. This is another area that I think is critically lacking. And I think the national education policy is now talking about developing a framework for the teacher development, vocational teacher development. So until that comes, I think again these clusters can have three approaches. One is infrastructure for practice, one is infrastructure for trainer development, and another is the quality of assessments. I think this is something which is lagging, because unless there is a pressure coming from the assessment side, the pressure will not go down to the teaching side. So if the assessments are becoming more stringent day by day, which are linked to the requirements of industry and are applied assessments, the teaching pedagogy will not find the need and urgency for change. One important thing is that for all this, we need to have a digital deployment. One is from the reach perspective, because today the digital reach, government is trying its best. More and more internet connections, mobile connections are coming up. But I think skilling also has to have its digital reach. But at the same time, given the paucity of infrastructure and the contactless operation now emerging after this pandemic, I think there is an investment required in the new technologies that facilitate simulative practices. So simulations based technologies which can replace the physical workshops and physical centers. I think simulation based skilling interventions are highly required. There is a need to put on critical job roles and how they can be aligned to gaming or simulation, and at the same time leveraging the high-end technology like artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and virtual reality at dedicated cluster centers in the country. Before I conclude, I would also want to emphasize that besides the high-end skilling, technology, and other things, I think traditional skills for livelihood, we need to map them, and we need to find how traditional skills can be enriched with such interventions that it improve its quality and outcome, and it makes these traditional skills sustainable for livelihood. And for that, the vocal for local is a great mantra that the government has coined, but there needs to be the local policies by the government, how to create demand for the local items, and how these traditional skills can be aligned that can boost the local demand, that can also boost their sales and marketing with the local markets. And at the end, I think the time is changing. We need to focus on interdisciplinary education, and all the skill institutions need to have this interdisciplinary approach in their skill centers, which includes which also includes focusing on the softer elements. Because today, if we look at the top skills that are required, like critical thinking, problem solving and decision making, and empathetic or emotional intelligence, these are highly required skills. And I think there is very poor investment. They need not to be taught, they need to be facilitated so that students can actually embrace them as skills. So thank you very much. I think I have taken my 15 minutes. I don't want to go beyond that. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And I wish you all the best for the initiative that you have taken up. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nehru. I think you always inspire everybody. I think you've got very clear thinking about the way ahead, and we need people like you to take it forward. Just a small, if any of you are looking at the number of people attending this, actually the right number is, they're attending it over a thing called Hive. There are over 150 persons right now listening to all of you. So, don't go by what you're seeing here, because the main program is on this system Hive. Okay. May I now request Mahesh ji to give a vote of thanks and all our esteemed guests.
Thank you, Dr. Sudhir Kapoor. I'm thankful to all the panelists today. Dr. Sudhir Kapoor started with a welcome and introducing the subject. He mentioned about key problems of MSMEs. Mr. Ashok Sehgal, MD, Frontier Technologies, discussed the challenges of COVID and the opportunities wrapped by challenges, which will shower rewards with time. MSME problems like requirement of a top executive's capability, leadership. Lockdown ended in March, closing everything. MSMEs did not get receivables, could not pay salaries. Government supported with 20% increase in working capital. Customers also did not pay because of their processes. In turn, MSME is now adopting technology like ERP and coming across with shortage of workers, managing by learning with lesser inventory and better logistics. Thank you, Mr. Ashok Saigal, for your words. Dr. Harry Stolte, very encouraging talk by him, discussed the 5 technologies at TVET, demand versus supply of the required skills. Lower skills are going to reduce, higher skills are going to increase. There's gap in leadership skills in the MSMEs. We need to modernize skill development, both digital and sectorial, and development of competence of teaching personnel, pedagogy, learners' competencies. Thank you, Dr. Harry Stolte, for enlightening us with what TVET is doing. Thank you so much for being with us. Mr. Jagdish Mitra, Chief Strategy Officer, Tech Mahindra, talked about what IIT industry is gearing up for the manufacturing. Hand in hand, he discussed evolution of industry from 1.0 to 4.0. Right from over 120 years ago, the first book was written on productivity, and so is going on today. And today we have different dimensions. The skills required of problem solving, creativity, analytical, and skills in Industry 4.0, he discussed a case study of their own. Thank you, Mr. Jagdish Mitra. Mr. Satoshi Sasaki, Deputy Director, International Labour Organization, informed that not only it was a health crisis, but a social and economic. ILO anticipated the skill requirement, education, training, and lifelong learning policies, learning to learn, adaptability, flexibility, make skilling demand-driven, easy and affordable skilling packages. Thank you so much, Mr. Satoshi Sasaki. Dr. Raj Nehru. Sir, we are obliged. You are the chief guest today. Your presence is gracious. Vice Chancellor Shri Vishwakarma University. Sir, you shared the numbers of people going for higher education and those not going into higher education. Some of them going raw into labor market, some with some training. Employer, industry should, educational institutions should work proactively to engage employer and industry and work in tandem and make it practical. The university industry mentors the courses, helps industry with job ready pass outs. Institution infrastructure cannot be changed, modernized with time. Sir, I have been a strong promoter of the way medical education is happening. The doctors, they practice and also teach, and the professors practice and also teach. And medical institute and hospital are side by side. I am dreaming of the day when industry and institutes are held in the same premises. I am grateful to you all for being with us, and we are grateful to our sponsors, She at Work. Thank you, Dr. Kapoor. Thank you, everybody, once again. Thank you for being with us today.
I think it's been an outstanding presentation, and I want to really thank every one of you for your great contribution what we've done is we've talked about the problem, but where are the solutions? That's something which we have to look at and work together to solve. Mr. Stolte, we will certainly reach back to you in this regard. But where are we today in terms of CII being able to support its MSMEs? CII, as you know, has 10 centers of excellence. Two of them are going to present today and help work with the MSMEs to be able to help them to move forward in their quest to digitalize. So we have two presentations. One is by Colonel Sohail Zaidi, Head Center for Digital Transformation, followed by one by Mr. Pekinder Pal Singh, CI Center for Competitiveness, and then a case study. Over to you, Sohail.
Thank you so much, sir. IT, can you please give me the presentation rights?
Kindly wait for a few seconds. This is in process.
Okay. So meanwhile, I get the rights. Sorry?
The rights have been given. Kindly start presentation.
No, I don't think I've got the rights. Now I think I'm getting.
Sohail, do you have the right?
Is my screen visible?
No, not yet. Yeah, it is now. It is.
Thank you so much, sir. I represent the Center for Digital Transformation at CII. And as Dr. Kapoor talked about, we look after MSME. Our focus is on MSME. Just to talk about the landscape, one of the positive things that Corona has done to Indian industry or to the worldwide is that it has encouraged the digital adoption to a very large extent. Now, if you see the data points which I'm sharing here, there has been a very big increase in digital adoption across the country through various parameters. Now, what people are generally saying is that digital adoption, which otherwise should have taken more than 2-3 years, has happened in 1 year or maybe less. At this, I would also like to just bring out that the numbers of mobile connections here are shown are slightly on the higher side because there are a number of individuals who have more than one devices, and therefore this is just one of those figures which we have been able to get from various sources. Coming to the digital transformation as such, what we are generally talking of, I would just like to clarify here. I'm sure most of the people know it, but I'll just like to reiterate that there are 3 confusing terms which are very active these days, which is digitization, digitalization, and digital transformation. So I'll just briefly say that maybe digitization and digitalization is basically applying technology to the existing businesses, whereas digital transformation means doing things in a new digital way. So this is what the parameter that we talk of, and this will be my benchmark on which I'll be proceeding ahead. So basically, it changes the way businesses are conducted. And we say that digital transformation is more of business transformation on the backbone of technology. And it actually enhances the efficiency, customer satisfaction, use of resources, innovative product. It covers everything, if you see. And it helps industry becoming globally competitive as well.
And it involves radical thinking in pursuit of new revenue streams, and it affects the entire business processes. And as is being said, it is no more an option, but a necessity. And the benefits of digital transformation are huge, as are listed here. But I would like to again reiterate that this journey is never ending. Nobody can claim that he has reached the pinnacle of digital transformation, because there's something or the other new coming at a very high pace, thanks the digital infrastructure and the digital technologies which are coming at a very fast pace. Now, coming back to the effect of COVID, I would just like to talk about this moment of survival, transformation, and reinvention, specifically for MSMEs. We say that this storm of COVID was like an organization is compared as a ship in the sea or ocean, and COVID is a storm which has come. Now we say that there are 4 basic phases which the organization has to undergo to survive this storm. Phase 1 was the challenge through formation of agile business continuity teams across distinct functions for ensuring business stays afloat. Most of the organization, I would say, have crossed this barrier, and they have stayed afloat, barring a few who could not survive this thing. Then the second phase meant studying the ship so that it can sail through this storm. Restarting critical business operations, ensuring seamless collaborations between teams, robust plans to readjust to changing demand patterns, etc., are some of the attributes that would have constituted to this phase of recovery. And to a large extent, most of the organizations have passed this phase 2 as well. Now, phase 3 is very important because it involves the repair process. This is the phase which has maximum room for transformation and innovation. To sail this phase, areas such as launching new products, aggregating and deploying right tools and technologies, relooking at the skill quotients of present workforce, exploring new market reaches. These are the essential requirements which have to be met, because now the first 3 phases of the journey of an organization will essentially determine whether phase 4 would lead to a accelerated growth path or an L-shaped recovery path. So this was just a background to it. And then one of the surveys that we conducted, though it is slightly old, but it is still relevant, we realized that there is a gap for the readiness of the digital transformation in the Indian industry. The left side of this graph shows the readiness index for Indian enterprises, which is the solution seekers. So there are various parameters on which we found that the threshold of Industry 4.0, which we had as a benchmark, there is a huge gap. And we also realized that there is a gap for the solution providers as well to some extent. Now, when we dig deeper into this, trying to understand what were the barriers to this digital transformation, we could see that there was a clear lack of digital strategy in an organization, which was generally being confused as an IT strategy. So IT strategy and digital strategy are 2 different things, which I'm sure all of you know, but it has to be given the right importance. And leadership support is much more required for a digital transformation process to initiate. It is more of leadership interaction and taking the lead rather than just a support. And we could clearly see that since there are no ROIs defined, and therefore there is this gap of supporting this digital transformation movement. And also there are questions around data security and privacy. One of the most important parameters, which is a hurdle to digital transformation journey, is the skill talent which is required. The talent has to be skilled for this, and this is certainly a huge barrier which needs to be pushed across through various resources that we have across the country. Digital standards and norm certifications are certainly there, which need to be clarified for these things to be done. And we also found that there is insufficient collaboration among the technology seekers and the business partners. Why I'm saying so is because there is certainly, at times it has been found, especially for MSMEs, that there is a gap in what the sales teams commit and what is actually delivered and what is bought, the utilization of that. For example, just around 20 to 30 or 40% of the capability of the solutions which have been seeked are being utilized. So within CII, we have a huge network of enablers of how we can help the MSMEs going way forward. So I'll quickly jump upon the objective of CDT, which is the Center for Digital Transformation. We basically try and handhold organizations in accelerating their digital transformation journey. We help them understand the data that is being collected, which is very important. Once the data is collected in the right format, and then we are able to produce it at the right time in the right call the system of intelligence, wherein organizations leaders can take the right decision based on data at the right time rather than going on their gut feel. And that comes with some personal computing, which is part of this digital journey which happens. And right kind of technology to be employed is very, very important. At times what happens is when there is no right guidance, organizations end up buying technologies which are not required at the present state. They overkill the requirement, and therefore the utilization is not to the maximum. And that is what we try and do. And we also try and have a repository of the best case studies done, and so that it can be shared with organizations so that they can take a lead in this. So basic purpose is to inspire and enable businesses to go digital so that they can thrive in the connected economy, which is very important. Unless this step is taken, it will be difficult for organizations to be relevant in future. And how do we do that? We have 5 verticals within the center. One is the policy and research, which helps organizations adopt the right policies and also give feedback to the government based on the inputs that we receive from the industry. We have a team which conducts the events and projects wherein we help organizations understand what is happening worldwide through webinars, conferences, seminars, and various things. Then we also have a vertical of assessment and consultancy where we handhold the organizations for the reliable advisory and consultancy. Capacity building is a very important vertical wherein we help organizations in creating a dynamic and skilled workforce. We also have something called internal systems building, which is not relevant for this particular session, I would say. So coming to the capacity building vertical of ours, see, the purpose is to identify the right, assess and identify the skill gaps using the digital technology and inspire companies to get their workforce upskilled and reskilled and develop future of work resources and the talent pool. And since it has to be scaled to a very high level, we also help in building the assessors pool who in turn can train people within their organization. We also do capacity building for government officials and PSUs. We also conduct programs at CXO level to help them understand what this digital transformation is all about. We have CI has built in its own LMS program, which is the Gecko learning tool, which helps organize. The main vision is to make Indian companies or the incorporation a moral, economic, and technological force for the country. And basic purpose is to help organizations adopt the capacity building programs through the industry. Why I'm calling it through the industry? Because this program has been again developed by the help of the industry through the industry practitioners who actually have the on-ground knowledge and which is being used on ground presently. We have 3 ways in which the Gecko delivers the program. One is the live online master classes, which are almost like physical classes conducted one-to-one with the participating members, and again conducted by the industry practitioners live, and there is a lot of interaction which happens, and the learning curve for this particular format is very, very high. Then we also have a LMS package wherein self-paced or blended model is there, wherein the resources are available, people can take it online, and then there are few sessions happening on weekends or depending on the requirement of the organization. We do that. We also provide
organization-based programs as well, wherein if we have a number of participants available, we go on site and train them, although right now it is virtually. Plus, we also have a huge knowledge repository. CIA has got huge repository of reports, presentations, publications in huge numbers. They are being sifted and recorded in a placed on a very structured manner so that it is available for our members to seek inputs and learn from it. Another very important thing that we are doing right now is the assessment part of it, and we call it DEXIL, which is a digital transformation maturity rating framework, again developed by the industry for the industry. Now, this model assesses the state of maturity of a digital transformation maturity journey of an organization specific to the industry sectors. And in the assessment phase, we are also able to identify a few pain points which are not even known to those organizations through digital format that we have. And we use a common scale for benchmarking companies on this digital platform. I'll just take 1 minute to talk about this structure of DEXIL. DEXIL has 4 broad dimensions, which are strategy, structure, and governance is one. Then we have business processes, both customer facing, inward facing, as well as the shared resources. Then technology is the 3rd dimension, and culture and talent is the 4th dimension. And cutting across each of these dimensions is the business results, which is very important for any organization to understand. Now, each dimensions also have certain sub-dimensions. Right now, we have 24 sub-dimensions where we deep dive into the various sub-dimensions to understand the various levels of adoption of digital and the opportunities and the pain points which can be addressed here. And then we have focus area within each sub-dimensions. We have almost 60 questions as of now. Then we have built a rating scale based on which we rate an organization. And then we also have given different weightages to different critical focus areas, because every focus area is not at a fixed level. So different weightage has to be given, and then overall score of 1000 is there based on which we get the score done. And these are the levels of DEXIL. This is just a generic level which we tell the organization where it is. And while we are doing this leveling, we are also able to help them build a roadmap for their future digital transformation journey, which includes the capacity building, culture and talent part of it, as well as the other technological interventions which are required. So I have finished. Maybe we can have an offline discussion if anybody wants to go know more detail about it.
Thank you very much, Colonel. I think many of us, although we've been in CI for a long time, did not have a clear understanding of the capabilities of your center. And I'm sure you will have a long queue of people coming in to come and use your services, because this is the need of today. Thank you so much. We will now have a presentation by the CI Center for Competitiveness for MSMEs. Unfortunately, Pikinder is tied up. So Rajendra Ingle, will you please make the presentation?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kapoor. Can I get a right for presenting or a presentation?
We are running a little, long on time. So be grateful if.
Yeah, we'll try to finish. Yes. Yes.
I don't want to take away from your presentation, but
Is slide visible? Full screen?
yes.
Yeah. Good evening, sir. Yeah. Good evening, everybody. So I'm going to present. So here I'm going to represent a CII Center of Excellence for Competitiveness. So what is the mission of this COE is accelerating digital adoption by MSME, making MSME future ready, which is a need of the day, which becomes an integral part of competitiveness. Because as I said, I am representing CII Center of Competitiveness for IMSME. So when we are talking about competitiveness, it's all about building a linkage with respect to excellence in the department and function. Excellence has no end. So today we are talking about rather exploring the
Your voice is breaking, Gajan. Your voice is breaking.
many technologies. Competitive. For a competitive. Am I audible now? I'll stop my video so that probably bandwidth will be better. Is I'm audible
maybe,
now?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yes, now you're audible.
Yeah. So here we are talking about business excellence processes and cluster formation as one of the vertical, resource efficiency, which is energy, water, and tech adoption, HR management, and technology-driven practices in a business processes, digital transformation with the maturity, tech adoption, and handholding. So this center is a single point reference for meeting the competitiveness need for micro, small, and medium enterprises and providing wide range of services which enhance the capability of the industries. So what we does so far is we have impacted as a part of manufacturing excellence services in totality. We have covered almost 410 plus clusters implemented across the India, wherein 10,000 plus industries got impacted. So how it was get benefited to organization is many industries has achieved zero customer complaint, zero warranty returns. In some cases, it's a 70 to 100% improvement. So at the same time, in case of energy management and services, 5 to 15% return is there. Transforming of HR practices was done in 500 plus companies. And when we are talking about HR practices, it's all about skilling, reskilling, and upskilling. Because when we are talking about the manufacturing, the de-skilling is very important. But when we are addressing a digitech or technology transformation, reskilling is equally important. So how to make this hand in hand is getting addressed through the excellence drive. So what is the objective of a business is, build growth and profitability, having a market expansion by embarrassing a digital. So here we are talking about quality, cost delivery, and technology adoption, which should be a customer centric. So building the competitiveness is I'm audible, clear, Dr. Kapoor?
Yeah.
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah. So important here is business growth and profitability that can be achieved through with the building systematic approach with the organizational agility in while driving the excellence, either the manufacturing excellence or the digitech. So we are talking here hand in hand with respect to manufacturing and digitech together. So how to have strategic deployment with technology adoption, which is inbuilt with the vision and mission of the organization. So process strengthening the process, which is more reliable in terms of efficiency and effectiveness with respect to output of the entire operations which we had. Financial management, that is through WAPCO improvement. So how to have a cost management with the help of Excellence and Digitech together. Because in our organization, the competitiveness can be built if we are working strongly on EBITDA and WAPCO together, wherein the visibility of such parameters are becomes an important aspect, you know. So this is one of the roadmap, which is just for the reference. We build that Digitech as enablers, Digitech as a core implementation drive with excellence there with respect to various blocks. So if you refer here, we are talking here right technology, right time, because unless until the organization got a maturity with respect to Digitech adoption, and if the maturity is not there, the industries are facing a problem with respect to ramp up time and efficiency with when we are putting a technology. To avoid such scenario there in the organization, we are aligning a technology with respect to excellence together. So it's a right technology, right time, a right approach to optimize the process with the optimize the process, which will be a holistic approach as a technology adoption to give a desired result. So here we are talking about desired result with exponential outcome. Yeah. So why Digitech adoption needed? Everybody is talking about, you know, enhancing customer value propagation. So that can only happen if we are aligning the activities which is needed with respect to Digitech adoption, which will help in efficient build efficiency and efficient organization, which will help in growth, building growth in the organization. So we done some.
Another 10 minutes.
Yeah. So we have done some gap assessment with respect to a digital adoption in an industry. So what is clearly coming up as the challenges with respect to digital technology adoption in industry is more, and these challenges are more the opportunities in terms of implementation. So if you refer, one of the challenges like real-time visibility with respect to material data management, you know, the efficiencies, the real-time information, that is what is important for organization to take actions which will be which will help organization to you know build the efficiencies. So we are coining here with the 4 words to support the industry is accessibility, acceptability, affordability, and applicability, which are very important as a part of the Digitech adoption in industry. So what is really industries are looking for is a strong business ecosystem for MSME to handle a change successfully, which is again need of the skill, access to knowledge and quality training tools and related skill to succeed of practicing of manufacturing 4.0, forging partnership with the key technology providers for customized innovative solutions. That is what is, you know, we have cohesive system with respect to a technology providers, technology implementation strategies with through excellence drive. So what is happening is when we are doing any of the change in the organization, we always see what is a business priority. What is that, you know, business priority? What is that digital need there in the organization? And what is the problem statement the company has? So looking at a problem statement, this is one of the case study, which is I'm presenting. So higher customer complaint, 40,000 plus rejection there in end of line. Of course, it is leading to warranty as well. So high cost of poor quality. So what is really happening while doing such working on such project is we map the entire processes for the integrated quality improvement approach in line with the Digitech adoption. So when we are working on a quality improvement approach, it should we also explore the skill part should not got used during the work. So what kind of machine control, adaptive control, interlocking with respect to operation, how to have human error elimination through a Digitech, you know. So how to have traceability of the product at various levels within the organization, outside the organization when it reaches to a customer. So barcode, QR code oriented manufacturing, including a traceability vision system. So which will help the organization to have a smart manufacturing in terms of a logistic like material handling, material storing, logistic in terms of supplying material outside the supplying material to a customer. So it also has integrated approach with respect to.
Can you wrap up fast because we are?
Yeah, I'll take another 1 minute, sir. So integrated approach with respect to operator certification, data management, and so on. So this is the one of the example. Digital managed inspection stations got built, wherein the skill requirement is not there with respect to taking a decision of by operator. But at the same time, another skill requirement got arises, which got delivered, got addressed through a learning center. So Digitech for productivity improvement, Digitech for supplier part management, Digitech for arresting the skill gap. Okay, that is from the in-house manufacturing to us to the service level. So it's all about QR code and other things. So what I am trying to tell here is it's a Digitech implementation happening through the supplier part, the incoming supplier part to a customer end. So end to end, how this Digitech can be done with the excellence is what is intent of this case study, wherein the company got benefited in terms of customer complaint elimination, warranty cost reduction, delivery schedule adherence to 100%, and so on. So what is the way forward? So we are coining here a Digitech adoption as a movement. Companies can do assessment from a CII, can do a gap analysis. They can understand where they are and what kind of roadmap can be implemented there in the organization and kickstart the journey. This is what is all about, Digitech in the organization. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Rajendra, for your presentation. We're running a little late in time, but I still want, I think, as I mentioned earlier, we had this competition, and one of the outstanding presentations on digitization in manufacturing was made by Metalman Auto Private Limited. And I would request Mr. Nishant Jairath to kindly address us. We're again a little short of time, sir. So, but we want to hear everything you have to say.
No, I'll try and keep it short, sir. Thank you so much for allowing us to present our case study today. Can I get the sharing rights? I have a brief presentation, and instead of going through multiple layers of presentations, I would like to show you what we've done it live. We are confident on our data, so I'll be taking you through the live environment. If I get the sharing rights, please.
Aditya, have you given him the sharing rights? Hello?
Yeah, this is in progress. Please wait for a couple of seconds.
I know some of you are under time pressure because of simultaneous regional council meetings. So if you want to step in and out, you can do that. I'll try and make sure that we prioritize you, Rohit and Vikram, when we start the next session.
Okay, so is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Nishant Jairath. I am the director for a company called Metalman Auto Private Limited. We are a company which is engaged into manufacturing of sheet metal and tubular fabricated products. We have about 12 plants all across India, fairly tier one company catering to various OEMs in India and abroad. Major focus is on the two-wheeler segment. Products include motorcycle frame, exhaust, accessories. Then we also do three-wheeler cabins, and we are catering to primarily all the major OEMs in India. So Hero, Bajaj, TVS, BMW, Harley Davidson, and the like. All our plants are IAF 16949 certified. Now, primarily at Metalman, we have embarked on a digital strategy which aligns with our overall business strategy. We are one of the few companies in India which decided to implement digitization not as a fad, but we wanted to overlay it with our overall business goals. And our focus is to have a digital shop floors by 2025 and get rid of paper. All the data capturing and monitoring should happen digitally. We are trying to do this in 4 phases. One is the data collection. Second part is with respect to data analytics, and third is where we go ahead and build algorithms to do machine learning and AI. And then the fourth is the most important part, where we'll try to sustain whatever we've done. We've already completed almost on the data analytics part now. So we are now on the phase 2 of our implementation of our digital strategy. Now I'm just going to present one case study here where we've tried to sum up and bring everything what we've done onto one page. The key challenges what we had earlier was that a lot of data collection. We used to spend a lot of time collecting data, whether it was with respect to production, authentication of that data, disputes with the customer on that data. And, we decided that I think we should, work on the PQCDSM approach and try and capture all these data through digital points. And I'll be presenting the same to you today. We had different, we wanted to have a dashboard which had real-time shop floor data without human intervention. We didn't want any paper on the shop floor, and we wanted the product quality to get better. And of course, overall, the customer expectation should go up. Now, the case study that I have for you is wherein we've brought everything onto our common BI dashboard. We have data coming in through our ERP database. We have information coming in from our IoT platform, machine related data. We have certain data in which we cannot rule out the human intervention coming in through Google Sheets, so productivity tools. Like for example, minutes of meetings that we would want to capture. Of course, there is no digital way to capture that. And so we have Google Sheets there. Then we've also built RSS feeds where we get live news updates into this platform. And then we have different systems like human resource management system and contractual labor management systems, where we are getting the data through these systems digitally. And all of that is being consolidated into one common platform. And then that data is visualized for better decision making. Just a couple of snapshots, before and after. As you can see, it was all paper data, and there are high chances of things going wrong. The authentication of such data is always a challenge. With our experience, if you make an OE on an Excel sheet, it will always be above 75%. But when you try and capture it digitally, it can be as low as 25-30%. And this I'm talking with my real life examples. I'll take you through this because we are short of time. So I'll like to bring to you this in the live environment. I'll take you through these screens and, how it has helped us in giving better decision making. So I'll just, quickly take you through the live demonstration. I'll have to stop sharing this for a second and share another screen with you. Yeah. Okay. Is my screen visible?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so this is a live data. Whatever you say is until the last minute. As you can see on the date filter, I've got this financial year's data from the 1st March, and this is for a customer TVSM and for one particular plant. You can see, this gives me an elaborate information pertaining to the sales and debit notes that I've received from the customer. So majority of this information is coming through the ERP, through the the invoices and the debit notes we've received. I can see that in December, whenever the sale is coming down, the amount of debit notes is going up. So it could be because of my fault, or there are instances where customer tends to reject material when he doesn't need that material. So that is also a case, and that can be proven through data again. When I take you through the quality data, I can deep dive into a particular month. This gives me a flexibility and to evaluate that what went wrong in that particular month. And it gives me an in-depth Pareto of that particular month. So I know these side panels, which are for a Jupyter model, had almost 50% rejection coming back. I won't be surprised, primarily because this was a new development. I would probably not take you through all the slides. We have dispatch data coming in through the production data is coming through our IoT devices. A preview of this can be seen here. Now we have PLCs linked onto our machines where we are also able to capture actual wire consumption. Because I would say we are glorified welders. So, cost of consumables is very important to us. We are able to monitor that for a given period, say for March, what has been my total consumption in wires, and what I've got it in my costing. So I mean, again, this data is live every single day. You can see on the 23rd of March today, what has been my consumption today, how many in production I've done. So I've today made 187 frames, and the consumption that I have consumed per frame is 0.3051. It changes, the better the productivity, the less the consumption. Coming on to the quality, this data we are getting in from our customers portal. This helps me to deep dive down into every single product. So I can look at a particular month, and I can realize, out of say 50 odd products, how many of my products are in platinum grade, how many are of them in gold grade, and how many of them are in bronze grade. So I just need to click on the bronze, and I can go further deep dive into it, that what has been the rejection percentage which is happening at customers end, which are the parts. So these are the parts that are contributing to the bronze, and if I work on these parts, I can probably move on to platinum and get a best award from the customer. Not only that, it also helps me to do my receivable analysis, RFQ analysis, how many businesses that I am currently in line for, the businesses that are pending to be quoted for, what is the tooling cost that is pending from the customer, the MOM, that last discussion what I had. And also what we are doing here is mapping our share of business with respect to customers' performance in the market. So we are getting data from institutions like FADA and CM. Like we understand that in India, the two-wheeler sales for this particular period was in the tune of almost 576 lakhs. And TVS contribution to that. Sorry,
I just want to kindly, if you can do this in the next 3 or 4 minutes, please.
Yeah. I'm just about to sum up.
My fault.
Yeah.
We went a little late.
No. This is the last screen that I have, and of course, it's an in-depth presentation, but because of shortage of time, I'm just giving a brief preview. In terms of whatever we've achieved, and our sales, our contribution, our EBITDAs have gone much better. And, of course, that data, what we have is confidential, but nevertheless, I would like to share certain achievements that we have got. Even the data what we have, customer doesn't have that kind of data until the last minute. So when we are having those meetings with the customer, we have the bargaining chip with us. There has been an appreciation letters from both our major customers, that is TVSM and Hero. When we presented this case study to them, we got them to fix their own systems, for data capturing, especially when quality was concerned. When we deep dived into it, there were certain, I would say, loopholes that were found and implemented by the customer, and we've received appreciation for the same. So that's it. Thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to present this case study.
Yeah, we've been very unfair to you and unfair to all the attendees, because what you have is a gem. I was there listening to your actual performance when you won the awards. Guys, you've done a great job. But it's also a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call for everybody else, which says the benchmarks are quite high, guys. There's a lot which you need to do, and we need to get together and make that happen. Thank you very much. So I'm now going.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Sohail. Thank you, Pikinder, and thank you, Jairamji, and thank you, Rajendra. So we now move to what we call our special address on transformation, and we have with us Mr. M.M. Singh, Executive Advisor, Maruti Suzuki Limited. I don't think there's any introduction needed for Mr. Singh, because if there's anybody who's been involved in the transformation of the ITIs and the training sector, there is none who knows this better than Mr. M.M. Singh. Mr. Singh, over to you for your address. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
For being
Thank you,
present.
thank you. Thank you for giving the opportunity. I was almost within an hour now, and I had the opportunity to listen to some of the speakers. And then I was just making my own thought how I really things are looking up, because I think a lot of things are being done by CII, and particularly I saw the digitization and how the things are, they are trying to do it. But some of the basic things, because when I look at the things, I look at slightly different way, because when I'm looking at from the how the things can really change. Because one of the things that yes, we do all know that digitization is in the need of the hour. People have to change. The first and foremost requirement, I think, looking from the SME, if you look at from the MSME perspective, what is very much required is how am I able to convince them? Because first and foremost requirement, because we may talk many things. Yes, everybody knows the technology is there. Everyone knows that even the service providers are there. But till and until as a industry, if I'm not able to convince myself, let's suppose I'm not able to change my own mind, and mindset is still like that, it's chalta hai, and we'd like to continue like that. So if at all the changes we are looking at, I think first and foremost, I think as a CII, maybe as a OEM body, and what I think from Maruti Center of Excellence, or maybe from the International Automotive Center of Excellence, what we are trying to change the mindset first. Because first and foremost requirement, I think, is that you have to change the mindset of the people who are owning. Because I'm not talking about the big players. Big players are there, they are trying to change, they understand, and they are going for that. And need of the hour is, yes, we have to adopt the technology. But the question comes where the infra is going to be there. When we are today, I'm going to have some focus. When I want to highlight is particularly because the talk is based on the skill area. Now, looking at what the infra, if you look at the most of the industry, when I'm talking about 80 to 85% industry, particularly in MSMEs conditions, who are the people? Who are the workmen? What type of workmen? What is their basic education? How they are? And I think Dr. Nehru was trying to touch upon that issue, because till and until we are not looking at what type of basic education is required in those industry, a type of industry that we are looking at, or the change that we are looking at, till and until we are not able to address that, I think it is all going to be talking points. Only supervisors, managers, even if you are going to give the technology, I don't think so that the miracle is going to happen. When we are talking about going for a 25%, 30% improvement in productivity, have a very consistent global quality, all these are going to be a talking point only. The most important thing will be how really we can, and here I think the most important thing, and where I think government, the business leaders, or maybe the business houses, as well as the educational providers. Now I'm talking about all the academia. You talk about either the diploma engineering colleges, degree ITIs. I think everybody has to come on board now. And somewhere there should be a dialogue and debate. Okay, now this is the need, and I think what the people are talking about, and what Atmanirbhar Bharat and all we are talking about, the most important aspect here is, can we really sit together and come out a very basic framework? This is the way we like to move. I think it is today, I think one of the speakers was also talking about, and I was really happy the cluster approach that you had, and I think that is the way we have to go. But till and until everybody, because a lot of things are required to be done, and particularly at IT, because most of the industry are going to have, from where they're going to get the skill. If it is going to be ITI, I think ITI is required to change. Some of the adopters we have already adapted. If you talk about the Maruti perspective, we have done adaptation where we are already trying to change the curriculum. We are trying to work with together, see how the technology can be provided. But nevertheless, that is not, because the one pocket is done, but things are not going to change. So what is required is how really together as all the stakeholders, yes, we are taking a commitment that we want to change, we want to go for the digitization, what we are talking about. Because till and until that is not, I think it is all going to be talking. Some pockets, yes, some big players, some pockets, things are working, people are changing, we are trying to work on that. But if you are looking to holistically, if you are looking at, yes, there's a real transformation should take place. I think that the challenge will be how, as individuals who are having that knowledge and understanding of the subject, let's suppose you talk about the auto component or auto component industries, yes, here are the, let's suppose my own understanding of the subject, because fortunately for me, because I can look at, because when the talk was going on, I was trying to visualize 800,000 or 1,200 industries where I'm having a connection, how really they can go for. Because that is a challenge, because still I'm having a lot of debate on that subject. Because how really we can go, when we are talking about the visibility, look at the visibility, ground reality, the visibility is very poor today. how really we are going to change it? I think these are the challenges we all have to discuss and come forward. And I think when that seminar or conferences like this is also giving the opportunity, because today I am really thankful to all the speakers, because I had the opportunity to look at what the things are already going on. But somewhere we have to see how we are going to connect all these areas and see how really the best we can go for. Because till and until that is not being done, it is all going, I think it may be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, it all becomes only talking, things are not going to change. If particularly I talk about the efforts that what we are trying to do, and I think that is the one area where we felt very clearly is, yes, we have to go, and I think where we are talking about a training for the trainers. And it is the vision of, I think, again, talk about the Prime Minister and also the Gujarat government particularly, because they are very committed. And I think that all other states can also understand that way, how really we are trying to train the trainers. Because till and until we are not exposing the people who are going to deliver to tomorrow, if they are not clear about the subject, they are not clear about the details and what you are talking, what the benefit the industry is. I think these are the things somewhere we can create the center of excellence across and see that this should be imparted, given to the people, let them understand, and even the subject matter. Because if you again leave them, okay, you generate your own subject and go for giving and delivering the things are not going to happen. Somewhere centralized, these activities are required to be done, and then only the actual change is going to take place. In the nutshell, what my assumption should be, yes, we have. I think if you look at pocket, if I'm finding a lot of activities are going to be done. And Kapoor Sahib, this is for you also, I'll request, if because you are centrally, you are trying to look at all these areas and trying to really, you have very good understanding of the subject. If you really, we can think of some integration now, how the integration can take place, so that we can take it forward, sir. This is all thought process from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. You always identify all the difficulties. Now we have to sit together and solve the problem. I'm going to make a small change in the order because there's another meeting and Rohit and Vikram have to leave. So Rohit, can you speak next, please?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kapoor. Good evening, everyone. It's been an amazing platform today where we are discussing about implementation of Industry 4.0, Internet of Things or automation in the MSMEs, especially. And after listening to so many speakers, it's hardly anything left to say on this particular platform. And especially the presentation by Mr. Jairath was very much encouraging and very much learning. It was a complete learning in the last 2 hours or more than 2 hours. We have been sitting on this platform, and of course, as we all know, that last year, complete 1 year, had been very challenging for most of the businesses around the globe, adversely hitting supply chains and challenges to adopt newer norms of working, where employee safety is of utmost importance and priority for every business. But along with this, we need to ensure livelihood also of the people, and livelihood comes from value creation.
Nobody else, right? Nobody else is under pressure. Okay.
As we are talking about MSME sectors of manufacturing industry in particular here, this industry doesn't have a privilege to work from home as most of the IT or IT enabled industries have. So we need to make a balance between safety of our employees at work as well as doing production on the shop floor to create value and deliver to our customers on time with the right quality of products. As Dr. Kapoor mentioned in his opening remarks, that most of the corporate giants of industry are opting for digital transformation in their operations by adopting new technologies of manufacturing, but MSMEs are still lacking in it. And here comes the role of CI Center for Competitiveness and Center for Digital Transformation, which is doing its job, in a very constructive way to help MSMEs adopting newer technologies and handholding MSMEs to upskill and reskill the workforce in manufacturing industry. And I still remember the days when we also participated in the cluster by this center and adopted a lot of things which were not a part of Industry 4.0, but you can say that the best practices in manufacturing whether it is 5S or Poka-yoke, Kaizen, SMED, flow manufacturing, Six Sigma, etc. All these terminologies which we have learned. And today, of course, MSMEs are facing a lot of challenges on productivity enhancement to remain competitive. And for that, optimizing manufacturing processes is the key to remain competitive. And productivity enhancement, I believe, can only be done when we have proper tools in place to monitor the production in a digital form. Now we have tools available where data can be captured directly from the machines for evaluation and analysis to take decisions at various levels. And before adopting these technological changes, we first need to tune our people to adapt and acclimatize this particular change. I believe that that change management is the most important as well as challenging task when we are taking a step towards changing in the way of working. Workers need to adapt to new technologies and find themselves very much comfortable with the system. And in this change, one thing that helps the psychology of people, I believe, is that they should feel job secure and job satisfied after adoption of these changes. In my company also, we have recently implemented an ERP system last year, which was a big change in the way of working of our company. And I believe this was the first step uh, towards digital transformation in the company. And when we implemented these, we have faced a lot of pains during the process. But there is no way we can grow without taking this pain and remain sustainable in the years to come. As we grew to different geographies, we need controls and checks to ensure timely delivery to our customers with the right quality of product. So we just took all our employees along and recognized their efforts to this change. We need to nurture them day in and day out to get the best results from them. And we must learn that we can't upscale our businesses without upskill. So the mantra is upskill to upscale. And I think this is all from my side. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Kapoor, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Rohit. You've always been a strong pillar. May I now request Vikram Golcha, who's my co-chair in the coming year. Vikram, I'm sorry, we're running a little late and I know you have another meeting to go. So would you please address us now?
Thank you, sir. So I think digital transformation for MSMEs is of course paramount, and the struggle for the MSMEs is that they are so busy with their day-to-day activities that it's often not possible for them to focus. But I think as CII needs to we need to make people aware that the work which they are doing already in terms of their day-to-day work needs to be organized, and they need to record the data. They need to at least start recording the data in such a way that all their inputs are recorded properly and all their outputs are also recorded in terms of, for example, their quality control data, their customer feedback. So they need to start recording the data in a viable format, so that tomorrow when they transform to digital technologies, then they are at least data ready. Because there's a refrain that MSMEs don't do research and development, but the fact is, it seems that to me, I believe MSMEs are doing R&D all the time. It's just that what they are doing, they are not recording it in a format, in the data format. I think this is one movement which we need to take to MSMEs, that they just need to start recording the work which they are doing in the right possible manner. Now, a lot of tools are available for MSMEs, which are virtually available, which are very easily available. In fact, all they need to do is just search on YouTube. There are so many enablers which are there, whereby they can access to technologies which are available, wherein they can do so many things with 3D modeling, with data analytics, with regression analysis, and with GPS technologies. For example, if there is a transporter, the GPS technologies can be a great enabler for them. And there's so much data inbuilt into, for example, the trucks, and which can be of a great input in making their supply chains more efficient, and also making the maintenance protocols of their trucks more efficient. So many technologies are already enabled. It's just a question of starting to use them. I believe this is the area which we as CII need to be making people aware of, that the technologies are omnipresent now, and they need to start using it so that they can integrate better with their own workspace, with the demands of their customers, and with also the demands of their suppliers. These are my very brief thoughts for the moment. And of course, we'll have to build upon these thoughts as the year goes by. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Kapoor?
Sorry, I was muted, Vikram. So I'm so sorry. Thank you very much for your presentation. Really appreciate that. Looking for your support. All the things we've talked about, we have to implement in the coming year, and you're the co-chair. You have to do it all. So thank you so much.
We'll be looking forward to work.
Yeah, may I now request Mr. Neeraj Hans, Chief Operating Officer, Automotive Business, Sandhar Technologies, for his address. Again, a small request, try to be a little concise, because we are really overrunning time. So thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you, Kapoor sir. Thanks, CII, for this opportunity. Am I audible, I hope? Yeah, am I audible, Kapoor sir?
Yes, yes.
Perfect. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you all the speakers before me. I was listening to everybody carefully. So I think the message is loud and clear, and message is common across all of us. I'm not going to speak something new away from whatever earlier speaker have spoken. I'm going to speak based on the experience which we had in Sandhar Technologies. So Sandhar, as you know, is an automotive manufacturing company for tier 1 components for all the segments of the automobile industry. I was listening to Mr. Sohail Zaidi and Mr. Rajendra also. I think they have made my life easier. So, normally, whenever you want to start some digitization, people look at, Google Baba and other things also, where to start from. So my experience is that we need to identify our own problems in the shop floor, and we need to find out the digital solution for those problems. I think the halfway job is done if we start doing that. Because, when we think about the digitization and Industry 4.0 or smart manufacturing, everybody wants to start it. Everybody wants to do, because it's a jargon today. Everybody is speaking about these things, but people don't understand and don't know where to start from. So my message is that what we have experienced also at Sandhar is that try to identify your problems and try to find out a digital solution for that. People may have an assumption that presumption also that we have old machines. How can we convert these old machines to digitization? Today sensors are the things which are at damn cheap price. In a rough language, if I say, they are available at rupees per kg. We have to start thinking how to use those sensors in our machines. Take one example. There's a man and there is a smart man. A man is able to communicate, a smart man is able to communicate with you. A man normally doesn't want to communicate, or he's not able to communicate with you. You have to make your machine in such a way that it is able to communicate with you. Whether it's about her vibration level, it's about her temperature, it's about its current draw capacity. So once we are able to give those sensors to our machines, and we are able to get the communication back from machine to us, so this makes a machine smart machine. This is the message I have. And secondly, people think about ROI. What if I invest and it doesn't give me back money? So if we start thinking about ROI or you keep on thinking about ROI, believe me, we are not going to adopt these technologies, never. No customer is going to come back to me, whether it's a OEM or it's the end of the end customer in the market. Look, I want my product to be made as per the smart manufacturing. Nobody will come back to us. It's only about us, a matter of survival. How can I derive the value out of this, sensors and all those things? Because if I start getting into that detail of ROI never comes. But on the other side, if you implement it and see the results, ROI is here. It comes after 2 months or 3 months. The kind of wastages which we are creating in our systems, and it's all about drawing the efficiency for your bottom line. It's not increasing your top line. It's not increasing your expenses. Whatever efficiencies or inefficiencies we are creating in the system by this rejections or productivity and all those things, these systems are going to give us back the value for that money. Now, coming to Mr. Jaydeep was presenting one 5-pillar digital mission by CII. Fortunately, incidentally, I'm a lead there for this capacity building, or you can say skilling of the industry for digitization. So I'm available even in this after this session also. Wherever industry, MSMEs especially, or SMEs, wherever they seek to go for digitization, we as a CII also available to handhold you and take you to that route of digitization. And finally, digitization and skilling, they seem to be a contradicting word. On one side, we want to enhance the skill of the people and our workers. On the other side, we want to give them the wings of digitization also. So it's so simple. What we have to do is we have to upskill them for the new challenges of the life, for the new challenges of the machine. They have to understand the sensors, its behavior, how to convert it, so that the robot can be made the cobots. So this technologies can help us to handhold and take us to the next level. This is brief about message from my side. I'll just close it with a small incident. 2 woodworkers were there. A was thinking that I can cut more woods. B was thinking I can cut more woods. So both of them had a competition. Both of them went to jungle. A was cutting and B was also cutting. After some time, A listened that B has stopped cutting the woods. So A was excited. He started doing with the more speed. That B is not doing it, so I will do more. But after 15 minutes, B also was cutting. But this happened in every hour. In every hour, A was continuously doing it for 8 hours and B was stopping for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So A was conscious and he was confident that I'm going to win. But to his surprise, when the result came after 8 hours, B was the clear-cut winner. So he asked B, how could you do it after stopping 15 minutes in every hour, more than me? He said, in those 15 minutes, I was sharpening my axe to do more job. So guys, this is the difference between the manufacturing and smart manufacturing. Here A was hard worker, B was a smart worker. So we have to convert our plants to smart manufacturing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Neeraj. I think it's very clear. All of us better sharpen our axes. Otherwise, we are going to, we will not be able to cut the wood we need to cut. May I now request Dr. Ashwani Kumar Sharma, Vice Chancellor at Symbiosis Skill and Professional University, Pune. Sir, over to you.
Yeah.
Sorry, we had to make you wait a little bit.
No issue. No issue. Namaste. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yes, sir. Yes,
okay.
Sir.
Okay. I think at the outset, I must convey my sincere thanks to CII for organizing a webinar or a conference through online on the appropriate topic, which basically we have been talking, and especially when we are talking about the Atmanirbhar Bharat, Digital India, Make in India, Startup India, all those slogans and all these directives. I think CII is playing a very important role where they are trying to connect the industry with the academia also and trying to understand that why the industry 4.2 and how IoT can take up for the benefit of the MSME. I think all my speakers, predecessors to me, they have already briefed out that how things are changing, how
digitization and digital transformations taking place through the system. But I think that we need to understand that why this industrial 4.0 is picking up. And one of the reasons is that it is picking up very much in the manufacturing, supply chain management, construction, shipping, service sector, because this is the need of time. This is a demand of time. And especially after COVID, when we all have started using, technology for interaction, for discussion, we could find one thing very clear that we can do. It is what we were not doing. I mean, as on date, I remember when we used to take up the matter with the government and say that we must be allowed to go for online classes, there was a restriction from the government. But now after the COVID, I think all classes are happening online 100%. Even the practicals are also happening sometimes somewhere in simulator mode. So I think we need to understand that this industry 4.0 revolution is gaining popularity due to rapid improvements made in the cyber computing capabilities in the last few decades. And I think this fourth industrial revolution is replacing the inefficiencies of traditional business, which disruptive technologies and the upskilling and cross-skilling of employees going to play an important role. And that is what basically we have to look into in terms of MSME. The gap between the virtual and the real world has narrowed by advanced technology like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and so many other things to create an interoperable platform between information technology and the physical operations. One thing which we need to understand that now the embedded system, the factories, the workers can connect over the IoT to work together in a cyber physical environment. That's the beauty which has come up. Now we have a cohorts. And when we are saying cohorts, I think it is collaborative robots participating intelligently with human activities. Now, as far as since I come from I've been with the government as a DG with the NILIT, where I've been working on skilling and IT and e-governance and other activities. But for the last 3 years, I've been working with the university in the academic field. I think this Industrial Revolution 4.0 has brought us to think all of us in the skilling pattern, which has to be adopted by all of us. And that's the reason the World Economic Forum has very critically mentioned that there are 10 skill sets which are required to solve the problem being faced by the industry, especially the MSME. One of them is the complex problem solving, because that comes by experience, critical thinking, creativity, then people management, then negotiation, like this. So there are 10 skill sets which they have defined. And I think this is what we have to learn using the IoT, using the automated system, how we can deliver these services to the young generation or to the workforce which we are going to deploy for our industry. Now, the most important thing that we have to see that even the education system is changing. If you see the NEP 2020 also allows to basically make a transformation in the education system where we are trying to plug in or mandate the skilling from 6th class onwards. So again, a new initiative taken by the government of India. But it is a fact that there is a basic difference between a knowledge which we teach in conventional university or which we teach in a school versus the skill. And I think both are important, but very important is that skill can only be put to use when we have a skill. And I think that's the place where the industry comes into play, where the industry has to play an important role, because it is the tie-up with the industry which will put on the hands-on facility to the students, to the workforce which has to come into the picture. Now we need to also understand the real promise of Industry 4.0 lies in its ability to act as an economic game changer. Because one side we say we are the second largest country in the world in terms of population, but it is also a fact that we are the youngest country in the world in terms of age of the population, which means we have got a population which is in the working age group. And I think when we are talking about Industrial Revolution 4.0, with the knowledge of technology, with the knowledge how to use the technology, I think we can become one of the leading country in the world. That is what basically is there. Now question comes, how to go for implementation of IoT 4.0 in the MSME. I think what most important thing is that CI has to play an important role over here, which they have been playing, that we have to create consulting centers where basically, because MSME cannot invest a lot of money in IoT investment and planning and strategy thinking. We have to give them a consultancy, we have to support them out, and if possible, we have to work out with a system where we can say, platform as a service, software as a service, or maybe IoT as a service, something like that we have to work out. And one more thing which I want to say over here, because this is a platform, that in case we are planning to implement and roll out the IoT, and we are planning to roll out the industrial revolution, reap the best advantage of industrial revolution 4.0, industry has to come forward and support the academia. They have to share their knowledge, they have to share their know-how, they have to share their hands-on, and that's the only way we can work out. The most important thing is that since we have been talking about industrial 4.0, we have to think on new business models, that what will be the new strategy. We have to rethink about organization. We have to maximize our new outcomes, because now we have to work on outcome basis rather than result basis. Then we have to understand our business cases, and we have to plan out that how company culture will be there. What I mean by that is we have to start thinking on, cross-skilling, upskilling, reskilling, unskilling, and in terms we can say that we have to talk, whenever we are talking about IoT 4.0, we have to start thinking of reskilling, because either we can use the existing manpower, or we can skill them up for new technology, or we can hire the external manpower from with the skilled who are skilled and having the knowledge of the technology. But definitely a mix of both has to be adopted in all sector of technology, industry, especially in the MSME. I think time is short. With these words, I am again thankful to CII for sharing, giving the opportunity to be over here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. With this, we come to a conclusion of our discussion today on the manufacturing sector. We've had some outstanding presentations. I think we are all left, with a strong feeling that this is an area in which, there is no time. We need to support our industry to be able to move forward so that it continues to flourish and we do not have too many casualties on the way. The two CII centers, one for competitiveness and one for digital, I think can play a stellar and a catalytic role in this. And I think all of you need to especially to contribute to this. And this is only the start of our discussion. We will now take it forward. With this, we are now shifting to the second part of our discussion on something which to my heart is even more important, which is the healthcare sector. So India has consistently underspent on healthcare. The pandemic has highlighted the healthcare providers, and now the healthcare providers have moved rapidly to address the challenge COVID has created by the use of technology to help those who are diagnosed with COVID. And you've seen that, as people have been asked to stay home, the use of technology to support them while they are there, to monitor them, to manage them, has gone a long way in helping to manage the COVID crisis using telemedicine. Multiple healthcare providers are also providing medical consultation, doctors. Same story is happening in the area of sample collection by laboratories, digital reports, home delivery of medicines. Going forward, this creates the opportunity to deliver healthcare digitally to the underserved, with the opportunity to fast track taking world-class healthcare to the remotest parts of the country, much as mobile technology fast-tracked and moved away from fixed line connectivity. But this will need new skills, both at the healthcare provider and at the last mile to support those needing it. We have a brilliant panel led by our outstanding leader, Dr. Shabnam, to discuss the opportunities and challenges going forward. Dr. Shabnam, over to you.
Thank you, Kapoor Saab, for giving us this opportunity. And I think you've laid the ground very well in saying that COVID brought kind of intervention, catastrophic though it was and continues to be, but also it has demonstrated the stability and the resilience of the sector. Now, this flexibility and resilience, while healthcare lends to it, it definitely needed a whole host to make it happen. We have a very distinct panel with us, and I would request if we could just share, let them share with us a point I think I mentioned that while change is always difficult to make, this particular change, the quick adoption as well is
Dr. Shabnam, your voice is breaking. Maybe if you shut your video, it might help. Otherwise, your voice break. Yeah.
Yeah. Is Dr. Meenu Singh here? Aditya? I can't see her.
I can't see her either.
Okay. Sandeep, are you there? Dr. Sandeep Devan?
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah, perfect. So let me introduce Dr. Sandeep Devan, who is providing one of the most important and critical services in COVID care in 5 states. I wouldn't like to take anything off what he is going to share. So over to you, Sandeep.
Hi, good evening. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Yeah. So thank you, CI and Dr. Shabnam, for giving me the opportunity to speak about skill development. I'll just introduce myself. I'm a critical care physician practicing intensive care unit for Fortis. And I also not plan actually, we also run a lot of tele ICUs for various state governments and private hospitals. When we started on our journey in 2010, when telemedicine was very new to this country, we had found very early that although we are skilling people through tele ICU, but training was a major issue that we had to see, because the challenge in emergency care and critical care is you have to first do a graduation, then a post graduation, then you do a DM, and then you become a critical care specialist. But unfortunately, India doesn't have that many specialists to cater to. And as you go remotely into the countries, the specialist shortage is huge. And today also, when I was rounding in one of the intensive care units in a very remote area called Manchar, and I was rounding with the gynecologist. And can you imagine a gynecologist managing an intensive care unit? Can you imagine an orthopedic surgeon managing an intensive care unit? This is the reality of this country. So, but then they are doing an extremely good job as long as there is somebody above them who was overseeing them and advising them on the nuances of the treatment. So we manage this COVID ICUs all across 5 states.
Congratulations.
From CNI. Coming to
I'm in the middle of running a conference. So I just thought but congratulations.
But as we moved into tele ICU in the state governments, we realized that because of COVID, a lot of ICUs were new. A lot of ICUs actually had the equipment which the doctors and nurses had never seen. For example, a district hospital is suddenly loaded with 10 ventilators, high flow oxygen therapy devices, non-invasive ventilation, but the doctors and the nurses had never even seen such a device in the last 20 years. They had never even imagined that they would be running an ICU with these kind of facilities. So while the equipment reached very fast, while the ICUs came up very fast, but the training was not there. So one of the important parameters that we actually did while we attached ICUs to our command center is to train the people. Because I can give an advice to a junior doctor, but he still needs to understand what a specialist is saying. And that's why we understood that the critical care training through online platforms would be a key element of running ICUs also. And that's why wherever we started tele-ICUs, we started doing emergency management and critical care trainings for doctors, junior doctors, nurses, and paramedics. And although we cannot certify a lot of doctors, because we found a lot of doctors who are from Ayush, BHMS, BAMS, who are running the intensive care units, but we did train them on how do you manage a ventilator, how do you manage a ICU COVID patient, what happens if the patient deteriorates, what are the step-up processes that you need to follow. Did trainings for whole lot of states. Then the requests came for anesthetists because they were also new to this concept. We trained anesthetists about 150 odd in Madhya Pradesh, in Maharashtra, in Chhattisgarh. We trained paramedics into how do you actually manage the machine. So there, if I were to show you some videos, a patient is on a machine and the doctor, imagine the doctor does not know if the machine is working right or wrong. So all these trainings become very, very important. Now, giving you a perspective, we will never be able to completely cover the shortfall in healthcare skills that we have. It takes 15 years for a specialist to become a specialist, and we cannot churn out specialists that fast. So it's also important that we train our junior manpower and utilize them to the best of their capacity and handholding them whenever they need help. So our model has been to train doctors, to train nurses, and digital platforms like tele-ICU to support them. So after training, they may be able to take care of clinical situations A or B, but can they manage a Y or an X situation? No, but that is where a specialist can help them through our tele-ICU mechanisms. And with this platform, in the last 1 year, we've actually shown a 50% reduction in mortality in COVID intensive care units. We've actually decreased the referral from district hospital to medical colleges by 27%. What would happen before? And we all are from government colleges. If I'm in a PGI, a patient will go from primary health center to community health center to a district hospital, and it's just a pass through because the doctor does not know how to manage that emergency. And the patient will land up in a medical college, and the medical colleges are completely full because there's nothing happening at the bottom. So if we train the manpower at the bottom and help them with skill sets, a lot of referral to a larger centers can be decreased, and this we have documented in the last 500 ICU beds that we are managing. So my belief as a doctor is that the time has come when we need to utilize the best possible resources, and our junior doctors are extremely talented dot. It's just that we are not having enough confidence in them and they do not have the skill set. If you're able to give them the skill set, they can do wonders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandeep. I think what your entire endeavor has shown is people are there. They have the willingness to be able to make things happen. It's just that you have to handhold them and make sure that they learn the right way, right? I'll circle back with you on the certification bit and the challenges that are there within that piece. With this, I'll turn now to Dhanashree. Dhanashree, are you here? Are you online, Dhanashree?
Yes, Dr. Sharma.
Perfect. So, Dhanashree, as earlier speakers have also said, one of the biggest challenges when it comes to technology, right? And using technology, and suddenly we've been world of teleconsults and telemedicine, using it, feeling comfortable and confident about it is a huge challenge. Your company has been doing stellar work in this. Would you like to share how you have taken this forward, please?
Thank you, Dr. Sharma, for this question. So the way we have progressed in our journey, so being an IT company, we have worked very closely in the health sector in terms of creating certain applications which are useful. And earlier we have...
There's a bit of an echo.
Can you request everybody other than Dhanashree to switch their mics off, please? There's a lot of feedback coming. Thank you.
Yes, Harishi.
Yeah. So I was saying, as an IT company, we have been working with health sector primarily to, develop certain applications, certain softwares that, the professionals use on a day-to-day basis. What we recently, the shift we have done is in terms of applications which can be used by the frontline workers. So, those people who are on ground connecting with the communities and the direct people, and on the, let's say, on the deprived section per se. What we've realized is creating applications is easier compared to ensuring that they're adopted and implemented and used at the, at the end user front, wherein the actual intent is there. So the transition that we've seen is going the bottom-up approach, interacting with them, interacting, let's say, with the ASHA workers, with the on-ground workers, understanding what their needs are, and what is it that they are looking at when we are looking at streamlining certain operations for them. What we've seen is very interesting things, because when the conceptualization happens mostly in the closed room meetings, the gem comes from the field, and if you don't consider that in the development phase, we are missing out on very critical and crucial inputs on the development aspects. So things as simple as we don't need everything in the regional language, because what we talk is not essentially what we have when we translate certain applications. So we got these inputs from our field, saying that we need certain icons. So even if you replace that with some words, it's okay. We can still operate them. And then what you've seen is the acceptance level is much higher, the adoption level is much higher, and also the promotion, saying that this has helped me, and they're sharing with their co-workers and the, the broader communities or the broader circles there. What indeed has also helped us in ensuring that these are adopted, these are used, is the support from different government entities that we have received in terms of ensuring that we have these trainings conducted for the people on ground. But what this also requires is, what I would like to again put forth, is the upgradation that also needs there, and how can we then incentivize people using this and also give them certain won't say ambition, but something which is a way forward for them as well. So it just not ends there, but certain levels up that they can go along with the use that they are having of the applications that they are implementing there. So I think it has to be a mix. So when we talk about remote rural areas, it's also about having access to devices, access to those high-speed internet wherein the data can get collected and feedback up to the server. So again, certain solutions who can collect data offline, and once you connect, it gets uploaded. So certain of these small elements which have enabled us, to disseminate this at a very larger scale, and also ensuring that it is reaching to the core and to the roots.
Thank you, Dhanashree. My next panelist, Dr. Srinivas Rao. Dr. Srinivas Rao is the CEO of Apollo MedSkills, and again here, both with the vaccination as well as in the testing. Dr. Rao, you all have tweaked the process, skilled your workforce to be able to cater to this huge onslaught, if I may say so. So over to you, Dr. Rao, for your experience.
Thank you. Thanks, Dr. COVID,
Dr. Rao,
I think one of the biggest challenges.
You have to stop your video. Otherwise, your voice is breaking. Yeah, thank you.
Am I audible now? Hello?
Yes,
very well. Very well.
Okay. So I was mentioning about two things. Yes, when the testing drive started for the COVID-19, the RT-PCR tests, there was a need for upskilling or reskilling the lab technicians, because most of the lab technicians are not very familiar with collecting the throat swabs and the nasal swabs for testing. Generally, they are trained on collecting the blood samples and urine samples. So we did a very large scale training exercise for lab technicians and phlebotomy technicians, trained over close to 46,000 technicians on how to collect the throat swabs. in a blended approach, both showcasing an online way of doing that, as well as conducted workshops across India in about 24 states, in about 40 locations. We have conducted these drives. And then on January 16th, when our Honorable Prime Minister has launched the vaccination drive, prior to that, 2 months before that, we know that we need to deliver close to 30 crore, 300 million vaccines across India. There were 4 phases of prioritization. In the first phase, healthcare workers of 1 crore, then frontline workers, 2 crore population, and then now we are in the third phase where there's a vaccination drive happening, 26 crores. So with India having only 6 lakhs actively practicing doctors and about 14 lakh nurses, this vaccinator population was not enough to deliver these vaccines. So we started training all the vaccinators. So the government of India has released, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare released a document on vaccination operating guidelines, and they've defined about 6 roles who are vaccinators. Apart from doctors and nurses, they've also included few other professionals. One is the nursing students, the medical students, interns, and also the BDS doctors, some of the Ayush doctors, and also pharmacists are included. As of now, the pharmacists are not being utilized in delivering vaccines. Predominantly doctors, nurses, and the dental surgeons possibly in the next phase will be utilized. So we started training, giving a vaccinator training. This is again in collaboration with Healthcare Sector Skill Council. So we designed a training module, and now we're delivering that training, still delivering that training. So far delivered the training to close to 86,000 healthcare resources, but we aim to train close to 3 lakh resources during the next 2 months, because the vaccination drive will continue for another 4 months for delivering almost 600 million of doses. So these are broadly the 2 experiences that we had on large scale trainings. But in addition to that, we have seen a rise in demand for the geriatric aids, because most of the senior citizens are being treated at home. So Portia is one of the home healthcare companies collaborated with us to deliver this training for the geriatric aids. We have also started some training for the telehealth coordinators and also the retail pharmacy associates, because the medical dispensing has also increased and the demand for them has also risen. Thank you, Dr. Shabnam. Thank you, CIA, for giving me this opportunity to share my opinions.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. So I think some very interesting points have come up. Number one, that when you have a crisis situation, like when we talk about training, we always say, okay, there has to be some baseline entry level. But in this crisis situation, not only has the entry level been released, but you have found that they have been able to perform. So it's not as if the base academics has to be far excellent and in the 12 plus BSc kind of thing, but other service providers of healthcare can also be pulled in at short notice. So again, this emphasizes the fact that skill is more important than just a pure academic degree in being able to provide healthcare. I think Dr. Sandeep Devan also mentioned the same thing, as well as Dhanishri. So that, I think, would be a take-home message for us, that we need to work more in seeing how we can make this more flexible so more and more people can come into the workforce. With this, I'd like to now turn to Mr. Farhan Petiwala. We have the privilege of having him with us on this panel. He's the Executive Director and Head Development India and South Asia, CI India at 75 Task Force member on healthcare and digital literacy, and a former CEO of Enactus and Norfolk Group. So, Mr. Petiwala, from your perspective, given your vast experience and the way COVID has thrown up both challenges as well as solutions, what would your take-home message to the regulators as well as providers be as far as upskilling in digital literacy and flexibility in the workforce? Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Shabnam. You know, I've kind of spent over 2 decades in corporate world, and my last 10 years have been in the non-profit side. Currently, I'm associated with the 4th largest eye hospital, and it's called Akhand Jyoti Eye Hospital, and we work in some of the poorest states like Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. One of the things that we have realized, with the pandemic, what really brought out was the whole problem with the infrastructure in rural India of healthcare, and this has been a problem for all of us, both from a testing perspective as well as from post COVID care perspective. So, in terms of eye care, though we are not in the essential services, so we were shut for almost 4 or 5 months during the pandemic, and then we came back online with the new normal, with all the COVID protocols. In terms of upskilling, what we have seen, Shabnam, is there is a huge demand for optometrists in the country. As you know, 1/3 of the world's blind population lives in India. And I can tell you more than half of them would be in these poorer states like Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. Now, the problem is, on one side, they get cataract much early in life because of heat and dust. Typically, these are agricultural economies. So they get blind much faster than what these cataract or glaucoma come to us. And on top of it, they don't even know how to deal with social distancing and COVID and some of the others. So our effort is, one, to create more and more awareness. And in terms of skilling and upskilling, we have a program where we educate young adolescent girls between age 14 and 20. We bring them at the hospital and we educate them, make them an optometrist. And then we employ them in our hospital, either in our hospital. So we have a 350-bedded hospital in Bihar, in rural Bihar. And we have smaller hospitals across Bihar and eastern UP. So a lot of, more than 300 girls we have educated, and they have gone through the optometry program. So, but really look at it, it's just the tip of the iceberg. India needs more than 1 million optometrists. Now, it's difficult for us as a hospital to skill and upskill these, be it the girl child or the boys. But I think younger generation are grappling on one side with jobs and employment issues. On the other side, they can easily do a short course, become an optometrist or a vision center technician, and get jobs, or go and set up a small optical shop in their hometown or village, and that can actually help both in the Atmanirbhar Bharat, because I'm also an advisor to PMO on skill development and healthcare. So I think some of these initiatives, I think the need of the hour is for corporates to combine their CSR with skilling and upskilling and create more and more opportunities for the younger generation who are coming out of college or education of some kind to learn these life skills, be it an optometrist or a vision center technician or any life skills, and go back and start a small organization wherever they are. Metros are obviously more expensive, so I always encourage people to go back to where they are or where they're more comfortable, and I think that's something we really need. So Shabnam, over back to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. I firstly great and job. I think the challenges there are understated and what they're done. again, you have brought up a very important point. So it seems a common thread that we have to take the youth, skill them in the shortest possible time to get them, to make them job worthy, and not only job worthy, address some of their aspirations as well as take care of the community at large. So I'll circle back with Ashish on these points, but I'm absolutely delighted to see that Professor Meenu Singh has joined us. Can you hear me, Professor? Meenuji, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, Meenuji, please unmute. Yeah,
Yes, yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
Thank you very
okay,
much.
welcome.
Yeah,
Welcome.
I'm there now. Yeah.
Welcome.
Okay.
So Professor Meenu Singh is Professor of Pediatrics, Chief Pediatric Pulmonology, Advanced Pediatric SARC, Telemedicine Network, and Telemedicine Center at PGI. So it's great to have you here, ma'am. Huh? I think it's like saying telemedicine saw its moment in the sun thanks to COVID. So some not so good things have suddenly brought and revived something which has been around for eons, literally from the 1950s, right? And the uptake of telemedicine has been stupendous. I think the amount of lack of confidence that was there earlier with the medical profession, as well as from the consumer perspective that no, I touch feel the doctor, that kind of thing has gone by the wayside. Now, in your opinion, what is that we need to do to get a little pressed on being able to take telemedicine further? What are the skill sets or what are the kind of courses that need to be done to further enhance confidence of both the provider as well as make sure that the last mile of connectivity happens? Over to you, Meenuji.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this wonderful question. You're absolutely right that COVID period actually saw the upcoming upsurge of telemedicine. One, because the government issued guidelines for practice, which are known as telemedicine practice guidelines, which were good for the doctors and the professionals who were going to be giving the consultations. And there was a lot of awareness and there was a need which was felt by the public and the society that they needed some help in this time of crisis when transport was not possible, there was total lockdown. Or even now, when the upsurge is coming again, it is something which is still very, very relevant. So, and it's not that it is not relevant. Otherwise, it is not just for COVID. It is also for non-COVID diseases. For example, infectious and non-infectious diseases where consultations can be done from patient to doctors, doctors to doctors, and doctors to super specialists or specialists. So the skill sets, the question which you asked, there is a definite need for training of doctors how to practice a telemedicine consultation. One is that the different type of electronic medical records for with which you have to be familiar, the ones which are available. And in the government sector, at the moment, it is e-Sanjeevani, which has been produced by CDAC Mohali. And there are several other EMRs which are available from Tata's, from other HP. There's so many companies which have come up with Televital who are there being used by recognized agencies. Now, it's very important for a doctor or a professional, whether it is a nursing professional or a medical professional, to be aware of and be very familiar with the EMR format which you are trying to put your patients on. And you have to really be very, very careful about the privacy and confidentiality. The doctors have to have their credentials displayed to the patients whom consultation is being taken. And your consultation has to be absolutely flawless. And, it has to, like video conferencing has to merge with the electronic medical record, and it has to be, it's mostly embedded in the electronic medical records when it is needed by the patients, because the doctor has to take history from the patients. They can't conduct examination as far as touching is concerned, But there are several facilities now available by which you can of course inspect the patient, you can have radiology, you can have patient absolutely inside out on different kind of imaging techniques on which you can give your opinion. And there are technologies which are developing which can even give you some feel of palpation, for example, teleresuscitation, etc., which are there. So for this, the doctors would have to be absolutely technology oriented now, and they would have to be able to accept and use that technology. So this would need to come in the curriculum of students which are at undergraduate, and also for postgraduates it would need to be there have to be some top up fellowships which we are starting. We are providing some courses even for skill development in nurses and also in health professionals who act like link workers, the skilled workers which need to be there on the other end. For example, we have health and wellness centers these days, which are connected to us, especially from Haryana. So we need to train these people who are there at the other end and are referring patients to us to maintain the quality of referral and also to extract absolutely valid information from the patients who are there. So this is a very big sector now, which would need training, which needs certification, which would also need continued kind of an effort for dissemination in the medical institutions. And would these courses would need to come under some recognized agency like National Medical Commission, or institutes, big institutes like PGI, AIMS, etc., who would have to start these courses. So I think this sector is really expanding. You must have seen so many advertisements these days on TV, Star, teleconsultations or Practo, and there are many others who are coming up. Geo is another one which very innovatively developed by some people who just started like a startup. So these apps are coming up, and now all you need is a smartphone on which you can practice telemedicine on both ends. If smartphones are available, it's really good. But as you said, you need to have connectivity right up to the last mile and right up to the person who's standing at in the periphery. For them, we need to have very good connectivity, and those people also need to have devices from which they can communicate and send their information. Or if they don't have individual devices, then they need to come to some kind of health centers or ATMs, as tele ATMs they are known. Their network has to be spread out all over the place. Like there were some village resource centers, etc., which were produced by ISRO early, very early in Karnataka. So that kind of model also has to be developed. And under the National Digital Health Mission, several villages are being converted into digi villages, and from there it is not just telemedicine. They would also have education, they will also have filing of their returns or their bills from the digitalized platforms which would be available to them. So this particular time is very opportune now for total transformation of health sector and other sectors which are associated with health. So these are just my starting remarks. If there are any questions, I would like to take them up.
Thank you, Dr. Meenu Singh. You've sort of really put your arms around the entire piece of the intervention and skilling, as well as highlighted the opportunity to be able to manage the last mile of connectivity for universal health access, which I think is extremely critical for us as a nation, as we have not only an accessibility issue, as well as a acute shortage of doctors. With this, I'd like to now circle with Ashish. Ashish Jain is the Chief Executive Officer of the Health Sector Skill Council. Ashish, my question to you is, if you followed the conversation in the panel, twofold. Number one, these courses have to be recognized. People want a certification. They don't want to be around for eons to get that skill set. And this is not only limited to allied health workers, but it is across the value chain of health sector. What would what is it that you would do or you are doing from the Health Sector Skill Council to be able to address this? Over to you, Ashish.
Thank you, Dr. Shabnam, and good evening to all the fellow panelists. I think I heard very valuable inputs from Dr. Sandeep, Srinivas, Dhanishri, and of course, Professor Meenu. Coming to the question, Dr. Shabnam, what you said, as you rightly said, Farhan mentioned about the job roles, say, for example, vision technician, optometrist, etc. And then, Dr. Sandeep mentioned about, people who are being skilled but do not have a certificate, which they cannot do for certain reasons, as he mentioned. Similarly, for vaccinators, again, their training being provided, but how do we certify them? And Dr. Meenu also alluded to that fact. What from the Healthcare Sector Skill Council, we recently worked on, and with the approval of the chair and the chairman and the board, that we started, working on developing some of the courses in some of these areas which are mentioned, if not all. And these could be, some of the courses would be in a blended form and some could be in the entirely online format, where the certifications could be provided. But this certification, and if we look at what we understand from the discussion, just, we heard Dr. Sandeep talking about, there's a doctor who doesn't know how to actually do ABC on a ventilator or how to manage certain things in the emergency care. And gynecologist is maintaining the emergency care. So for these people probably, and for other, allied health and other professionals, down the line, you may not require a qualification because these are already qualified people. I think what you need is, like I heard you, Dr. Shandan, saying, short-term programs which can be done in the shortest period of time, providing those skill set, and some recognition for that program in terms of certification can be provided to them. So keeping that in mind, as I said, we are working on developing the online programs and the blended programs. And we are doing it, there are some programs we are doing it on our own, some we are developing it along with the other institutions where we are awarding a joint certificate as well. Like we are in, we are working with some programs on institutions like IHMR in Delhi, and similarly, we are going to work on some with universities also, and some we are going to develop. We are working on where the certificate will be provided by us. So person will come online, do a program at his or her own pace, and after that, learning that skill set, the person would be assessed online to the extent possible. If required, we'll see how we can do the other, the on the site bit as well. But idea is to do as much as online possible given in the current time, and the person will be certified for those requisite, skill sets. I think that's what probably is the need today, and that's what we started working on. And of course, you have been guiding us on that path as well. So I think that's what we are looking at, and that's how we are working on.
Thank you, Ashish. Thank you. So I think for all the participants, the delegates, as well as the panel, I think it's been a great experience learning from each one of you as to what has been done, what can be done, and what is the horizon as far as healthcare is concerned. So we need to move out of our fixed positions, if I may say so, and walk into what is called a phygital mindset, as well as a phygital way of delivering care. And that will require a whole lot of skilling, reskilling, upskilling in a continuous manner, not in a one-off manner. And I think earlier sessions also alluded to this, that at the end of the day, that is the responsibility of people in boardrooms as well as employers to invest in people and make them job worthy in a continuous manner and give them that resilience to respond to situations. So thank you so much. Given the fact that we are over time, I will now hand it over to Kapoor Saab. Over to you, Kapoor Saab.
Thank you, Dr. Shabnam. This has been an absolutely fascinating session. I can only say that, as I listened to all of you, I was just saying that we guys are not doing enough. And we will take this up with you and create a separate group to be able to make this happen. This is the need of the country. Just like manufacturing needs digital. And I will tell you, today you're entering the Guinness Book of World Records with coining a new word called phygital. I think that's fascinating, right? Physical and digital together, fantastic. Dr. Meenu, I think what you've said and what you've been doing is outstanding. Same thing I can say with Dr. Sandeep Diwan, Farhan, Dr. Rao. You guys are, you are superstars, yeah. I mean, now let's try, and Dhanashri, and can we now actually, I'm, make something happen on the ground on a time-bound basis? Can we set some targets? Can we do some measurements? Can we say we will do this in this much time and make it happen? So I'm going to appeal to all of you, and this is just a discussion. There are over 150 people listening to you right now, and I'm sure all of them are wondering that this could not have been a better afternoon, listening to all the wisdom coming from you. But what at the end of the day, we have to be able to make something, change something on the ground. We Indians are great, at philosophizing. We have to change our mindset. We have to actually make things happen on the ground. And Dr. Shabnam, I will catch up with you. And if all of you are willing to, give a little bit of your time, can we all commit to being able to actually make something happen on the ground, something time-bound, something measurable?
Certainly.
Yeah. So I hope I can get everybody's consent on that. And Dr. Meenu,
Yeah.
Farhan.
Yeah, if you may allow me to say something, we have got approved a National Institute of Telemedicine, and the government is very willing to start various courses which are listed under it, and that will happen on the ground. We are already doing short type of courses under our telemedicine initiative for workers as well as doctors and nurses, and certification would come under PGI authority. But we can all join our resources, we can all pool our resources, and we have this Telemedicine Society of India also. I'm a vice president of that society, and they are also trying to build up these courses. In fact, just making people aware of telemedicine practice guidelines is also a course, because people are really not aware of what is the regulatory aspect of telemedicine right now in India. So I think we should all join hands, and we would totally support you in your initiative. And I think this was a wonderful discussion which was going on. I mean, I was a little late in joining because I had another meeting, but I can get the flavor of what must have transpired here, and it's really nice that I've become a part of this. So I would have your, I would like to give you my full support and my 100% on whatever you take on for your next.
Dr. Meenu, I mean, you came in late, but as they say, you brought in a lot of value. But, some of the things which the others said, for example, increasing the number of vaccinators, again, to be able to meet this challenge of being able to, vaccinate so many people. All the doctors and together couldn't do that if our objective is to vaccinate the whole country. So there are a lot of little initiatives going on. We have to consolidate them, and we have to make that big transition. As I say, this is the opportunity for us to take healthcare to the underserved. And you guys are the superstars to do that. Thank you so much. We will catch up with you and try and make this actually happen on the ground. Thank you, Dr. Shabnam. Thank you, Dr. Farhan, Dhanashri, Dr. Pujalia, Dr. Dewan. Thank you. And
thank you, Sandeep. Thank you,
Sandeep. Great. It was really outstanding.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was really outstanding. Totally outstanding.